Hey everybody, welcome to Pod Casty For Me, the podcast about film, culture, politics, and Clint Eastwood, where we watch every film directed by and or starring American filmmaker Clint Eastwood and explore how they speak to their moment and to this one. The show's hosted by two guys. I'm one of the guys. My name is Jake Serwin.
My name is Ian Ryan. Excited to talk about smoking cigarettes everywhere you possibly can in a single film.
You are no longer one of the guys? Is this what I'm hearing? Normally you introduce yourself as one of the guys. Now you're just on the show.
Yeah, I've demoted myself until
I wanted to do that to you. Taking
so
everything from me.
Take my power back.
Wow, a little Rage Against the Machine reference. It makes a lot of sense with the film today. They're on the soundtrack. That's not true at all. Let's bring our guests in. It's going so well. Well, one of them's laughing. I like that. Our guests today have asked to be introduced as best friends. Primarily, that is their credit. They're best friends. Producer and director Chad Harbold and Blank Check social media producer Marie Bardi are here. Thank you so much for being here, guys.
Hey, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us.
We are pleased as punch. I haven't said that yet, right? I'm always pleased as punch, but I don't want to reuse nice things for different guests.
You just got to stay away from Country Mile, But
have I said Country Mile a lot?
Yeah, I think it's become one of your signatures. I think it's nice.
Man, that sucks.
It's like when Nick Weiger says he's a bit of a heat seeker or something.
No, but that's a catchphrase.
Sure.
What is a country mile? What does that mean? I'm a city girl.
Well, yeah, I mean, me too, but I think I'm a city girl myself.
Yes.
Country Mile, I think, is like slightly longer because no one's really like measuring them properly. Is that? I never really thought about it.
Okay.
It's like a New York minute.
Yeah.
You guys got those over there. You're in New York City.
We are.
Yes.
Big Apple, they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Ian's down there in Oaxaca
That's
de
right.
Juarez. And I'm in Los Angeles, the city of brotherly love. Let's start with our two questions, our famous segment. Now, were you guys able to come up with a question for the two questions?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
but I'm confused as to whether it's a question or two questions.
Hey,
welcome to the show.
Same. Yeah,
We've got several questions ready to go.
Right. Well, see, the best thing is that the rest of the podcast is also questions, but generally this is like the least relevant question.
Okay.
So why don't you guys fire away and we'll see where we are.
Oh, should I go for my completely irrelevant question?
Yeah. I mean, It can be relevant, but it doesn't have
well,
to.
I have one relevant and then I have one irrelevant.
Listen to your heart, I say.
Have you seen the 1999 Peter Hyams film End of Days, and what do you think of it?
I have not. I have Region 2? Is UK Region 2? I have a free Region 2 DVD of it that I procured in a former job as a clerk at a video store. Just stole that one. And I haven't watched it yet.
Should fire that baby.
You should watch it.
Okay. That's the one where Schwarzenegger fights the devil.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Played by Gabriel Byrne with Kevin Pollak as his sidekick.
Not the devil's sidekick. As Schwarzenegger's sidekick.
Right. And then Robin Tunney is in it?
Yeah, Robin Tunney plays the woman who the devil is trying to fuck before midnight on New Year's Day 2000.
That old story.
To
right out of the Bible.
The Antichrist or something?
Correct.
Okay, that's cool.
And then the devil's sidekicks are Udo Kier and Miriam Margolyes.
But what about in the movie?
Yeah.
I mean, Udo Kier, I'd believe, but
I watched it for the first time last night because my buddy Chad here, he was in your city in LA for a couple weeks, and he got Hyams pilled while he was there.
Oh.
Me and my friend, our friend Alex Ragnari, we watched The Star Chamber and what's the Gene Hackman one called? Oh no.
Look it up. Pull up the letterbox.
Oh, is that the Narrow Margin? That one's pretty good.
Narrow Margin, and The Star Chamber is also pretty good. I mean,
I like 2010.
Every one of Peter Hyams' movies is a 3.5 star movie. Every single one. 2010 is a 3.5 star movie. End of Days is a 3.5 star movie. And then Sudden Death. So we watched all three of those.
Nice.
And I watched End of Days a few months ago with a friend because we're writing a cult cop movie or whatever, and so that was like a good reference.
Nice.
And it bangs.
I'm excited to check it out. Oh, I recently watched The Presidio, which is
I haven't seen that since I was a kid.
Maybe a 3-star movie, I would say.
Okay.
Is that also a Hyams?
Yeah, with Sean Connery.
And Sean Connery and Mark Harmon doing like Tom Cruise stand-in. Like every review on Letterboxd is, how come Mark Harmon looks so much like Tom Cruise in this? How come Mark Harmon looks so much like Tom Cruise in this?
Well, the Wikipedia for End of Days says that the film was written for Tom Cruise. And then Tom chose to do Magnolia instead. Wow. And so then it went to Arnold.
Fine choice, amazing. I
think. And then there's another Connery called Outland, which I have not seen.
That's like High Noon in Space, right?
That sounds great. It's funny because The Star Chamber is absolutely not a sci-fi movie. It's a vigilante judge movie.
Like a Hang 'em High.
Anyway, that's the Hyams corner.
As a listener to the Blank Check podcast, you're recording from the Blank Check studios.
Yes.
And I see here that in 1975, Peter Hyams did direct a film called Peeper, which reminds me of one of the Blank Check extended family.
So we actually are sitting at Ben's desk right now.
Wow.
Because, he's the one who controls the mixer. Oh, Michael Caine and Natalie Wood.
Whoa.
Which one is this? Is that
The
Peeper?
Peeper.
Oh, wow.
Just Peeper. It's cleaner.
I assumed this was going to be some like early porno, like a Abel Ferrara or is it Cronenberg or Wes Craven? Who did
I believe Wes Craven did. Yeah, Cronenberg was. Yeah, his early stuff is like
he did porno throughout, basically.
No,
continues to.
Yeah.
Ian, have you seen, which one was it?
End of Days.
I have not seen End of Days. I was trying to remember if I've seen any Peter Hyams film. Did he make the?
He did Time Cop. You seen Time Cop?
Oh, Time Cop I've seen.
The Relic, Capricorn 1.
No, Relic. I was going to say there's a lizard in a museum movie, a weird lizard monster.
That's the Relic.
That I've seen. Yeah.
That's next on my list.
He also is his own cinematographer.
Oh yeah,
and now he shoots for his son.
Right. John.
Yeah, John, who does the new Universal Soldier movies that people say are very good.
That's what I've heard. I haven't seen any of them, but I've heard they're good. He also directed a movie called Dragon Eyes, which
he had a lot of fucking movies, and every single one of them I've seen, I was like, that was pretty good.
Yeah, people used to make movies.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Narrow Margin has a. Oh, this is an interesting question. Actually, I was mentioning off pod that I was just listening to Marie, your episode with the Blank Check Boys on Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Mm-hmm.
And Narrow Margin from 1990 features Gene Hackman running atop a train, and it seems very silly that Gene Hackman is running atop a moving train because he is 60 years old in it, which I believe is the age of Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible.
That is true.
I mean, there was that thing going around that, Tom Cruise is now the age that Wilford Brimley was in Cocoon. But that was like 6 years ago.
He is older. I think the Brimley Cocoon line is like 52.
I think it might be like 56, but yeah.
So that's like Vin. Like Vin Diesel is like 52.
Wait, let's look.
Gwen Stefani is 52.
Because I remember, when J-Lo passed the Brimley Cocoon line, I was like, Jesus.
The Wilford Brimley line.
The Brimley
there
Cocoon
is a
line.
Twitter account.
He was 50. He was 50. 50 years, 9 months, and 6 days. Yeah.
I'm going to cross the Brimley line in 13 years.
I mean, a man who went to middle school with a walrus mustache, right? Presumably.
Yeah. Okay, great. That's one question.
Yes.
Okay. Would you like to ask the other one? Would you like one of us to ask? We still have not narrowed down how many questions. We used to do 4 questions until somebody pointed out that it's 2.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And it's supposed to be 2.
I'll do my related question, which is from the film. What is something that you wanted to do as a kid more than anything in the world that your parents wouldn't let you do?
Ian?
Receive love. That was one of them. I'm just kidding. I had wonderful
parents. Mine. Come on.
Is that why you're not the guy anymore? You're just a guy because your parents didn't love you?
You're like in exile?
I feel bad because Jake already besmirches my parents' totally innocent reputation in his free time on this podcast. So I feel like
I'm going to do it later. I have a plan.
Okay. No, I had a wonderful childhood. I wanted constantly to see movies that's podcast related that I wasn't allowed to see.
Yeah.
was not in a Jehovah's Witness family, but was in a variously Presbyterian family. So sort of depending on the movements of the time, they would sort of decide what I was.
Do you have an example of these? I don't think we've talked about this at all. Like the movies you couldn't see.
Sure. Well, horror just was straight up out in our household. Okay. So horror I only ever watched at friends' houses, which, only added to its allure.
Sure.
And sometimes my parents took stands. They did let us read Harry Potter, even though our church had a big talk with us about why Harry Potter was
what branch of Presbyterian?
Whoa. Oh yeah, baby.
Where are you from?
I'm from California. I'm from like liberal Bay Area, but
like Palo Alto area. Yeah,
you're from Palo Alto, and your church wouldn't let you read Harry Potter.
Yeah, this is the same church that Steph Curry's family goes to. If you're familiar with.
Oh shit! I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Why are you holding out on that? Can we get him on the pod?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
But, yeah, I think that was basically it. The rest of the stuff was pretty normal. How about you guys, Jake?
I was allowed to see pretty much anything, and that explains most of my whole shit I've got going on. I famously was taken to see Starship Troopers in the movie theater as a 6-year-old. And
Jesus.
It remains one of my favorite films. It's because my mother's Pilates instructor is in the film as she's the one who accidentally shoots her. Wait, no, the guy who Casper Van Dien says to take his helmet off, who then gets his head blown up in basic training.
During the training, yeah.
His girlfriend or whatever was my mom's Pilates instructor.
Wow.
Tammy. Nice lady. So, that's grown up in Los Angeles outskirts for you.
Right. So what was not allowed? Like
what was not allowed? I do remember one time I wanted to go. My friends wanted to go see the movie Black Snake Moan when I was in high school. I think they were the only people in the world who wanted to see the movie Black Snake Moan. Apologies if you know anybody involved with it, but I was like, they're talking about going to see that movie, and my mom's like, no. I guess because, I don't know, Christina Ricci spends the whole thing like chained to a radiator or something.
Yeah, the title's also a little, exploitation-y.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that movie.
Me neither.
I kind of like Craig Brewer.
Was that his follow-up to Hustle and Flow?
Correct, yeah.
I believe so.
And I mean, Dolomite is good.
Dolomite is good.
My parents were pretty chill about everything, but I was also asking to see stuff like way too young, but I knew so much more than them, like from the beginning. So like they wouldn't let me watch Pulp Fiction, but then I would like rent like Reservoir Dogs and Jackie Brown instead, which they like hadn't heard of, and True Romance or whatever. But
yeah,
my big story of that is when the first time I ever went to California when I was like 11, and I wanted to see a movie at, I think it was Mann's Chinese Theater at that point.
Yeah.
If it wasn't Grauman's, it was Mann's, right?
Yeah.
And they were playing Saving Private Ryan, and like I love Steven Spielberg more than anything in the world, and they wouldn't let me go see it, and I still haven't forgiven them for that.
Honestly, I think that's good parenting.
That's the movie that is so sacrosanct and so beloved by America that you're allowed to play it on
for children.
Like, they play it on network television uncut because of the troops or whatever.
They also did that for Schindler's List.
Yeah. Well, thank you. But Chad, are you from New York City? No,
I'm from Columbus, Ohio, but I moved here to go to NYU, which is where I met Marie, and I've lived here since. So I've lived here since 2005.
I was going to ask, was this the famous, was it Kim's Video?
Yes, I worked at Kim's Video for one summer. Apparently not long enough to get featured in documentaries about it, but
sorry,
I did work there for one summer. Yes.
Okay.
Closed.
Was this just a blockbuster then, where you were sneakily getting True Romance?
Oh yeah. / actually, my public library, which shout out to the Upper Arlington Public Library, that had VHSs of every Abbas Kiarostami movie, and like just an endless selection that you couldn't believe. That
they all do. We're big proponents of getting movies from the public library on this show, because
arguably something I would be more afraid to show a child, like Taste of Cherry, something that is emotionally adult, a lot more like derailing for your life.
Yes. No. Yeah. So I rented from there a lot, and Blockbuster, and some of the other weird, like ancillary kind of places that lasted for a while, like Hollywood Video.
Yeah.
And then there was one other that I can't remember, but
West Coast, Suncoast.
Yeah. And even like the grocery store, you could rent videos. I think I rented Goodfellas from the grocery store.
What?
When I was
like in a Redbox thing?
No, like a section.
Yeah.
What? I've never heard of this.
There's a Japanese grocery store in LA that has they used to rent movies. They don't anymore. They replaced it with like fancy high-end like dessert. But there used to be a little video rental thing in there, but all of the movies were in Japanese and didn't have subtitles, and there was something I wanted to rent. I think it was like a Ghibli that hadn't been released by Disney or 4Kids yet. And the lady's like, it doesn't have subtitles, it's in Japanese. Do you still want it? And I think I just got scared to say no. So I said, yes. And then I took it home and I tried to watch it and it's like incomprehensible.
Well, Kim's was a dry cleaning place that like just rented videos on the side. And then like that became this whole thing.
We should get into our film.
Yeah.
Today we're talking A Perfect World. I was not Perfect World pilled until I watched this film because there's a whole secret within the subset of movie freaks who are Clint Eastwood freaks. There is an even smaller subset that are Perfect World freaks.
Yeah.
There's a contingent that will say that this is the best Clint Eastwood film.
I think it is. I am part of that contingent. I think it is one of the best Clint Eastwood films.
I'm not.
I wouldn't disagree.
Yeah, I'm ready to be baptized.
You ready?
I'm there.
Okay.
And speaking of as a kid, Marie watched it for the first time today. I watched it for the first time when it came out on VHS in whatever, 1993 or 4 or whatever, when I was 8 probably.
Wow. Okay, so I
was
were
like
Buzz.
the kid's age. Yeah, I was like Buzz watching this movie.
Yeah. Wait, Marie, did you like it? I think we were
did like it.
Okay.
But, in terms of what am I looking for in a Clint movie?
Yeah.
I mean, this is like, I said to Chad, it's a boy movie.
This is boy stuff, dad stuff, yeah.
Yeah, this is dad stuff, like, which I totally get, but I don't really have like, the lived experience.
Do you have like a good dad experience?
I mean, my dad, I'm very, very close with my dad, but my
you
dad,
got a cool dad. Okay.
Well, but he's gay and, it's not traditionally masculine. But
you have a close relationship.
Yes.
He's a great guy. Shout out John Bardi.
Yeah, shout out to John Bardi.
Shout out. I think that it might explain why the film didn't hit for you, because I think you might need to have more of a complicated relationship with a father figure to really get into it.
Yeah.
Because my girlfriend, who generally doesn't care for Kevin Costner at all,
same,
got it.
Yep. Also
with this movie. She said, "Oh, I get the Costner thing. I think because of
me
the
too.
dad
He is
stuff."
so hot and charismatic.
I wouldn't go so far as to call him hot.
Really?
I've never been attracted to him.
That haircut, those sunglasses,
the sunglasses are good, and I liked it when he was eating the hamburger lady's ass. But like,
he was kissing her bottom
in this movie,
her backside.
Yeah, but no, have you guys seen Madonna Truth or Dare?
Seen some of it. I haven't seen the whole thing.
Have you seen the Kevin Costner parts of it?
No, I didn't know he was in it.
Okay. So it's very important that my like main association with Kevin Costner is him showing up in Madonna Truth or Dare backstage at one of her LA concerts and telling her that he thought the show was neat. And then she just is like, she has no idea how to respond because she's never been told she was neat before. And she's just like, what the fuck? Well, who says neat? I've never, and like, she just like shit talks Kevin Costner the whole time for being a square.
Wow.
So like, I think he has great movie star charisma in this movie. And so I will say that I got Kevin Costner as a movie star through this movie, but I did not want to have sex with him.
Have you seen Bull Durham before?
I have.
Oh, that didn't work for you. That was the other thing that the only two Costners. Okay, sure. I don't care about baseball at all, but I do care about Susan Sarandon.
I'm like,
and
why is she
Costner.
wasting her time with these minor league baseball players when she could be like fucking vampires in New York or something?
True.
Like,
True.
But controversial.
Are there vampires in that movie? Oh, you're talking about The Hunger. Got it. Because I haven't seen Bull Durham, and all of a sudden I was like, wait, I gotta watch this right now.
See, that would be so sick.
There's a movie where
I like that movie more.
it's a baseball movie where vampires are real, but they don't play into the story at all, except for like now I'm very interested.
Well, that's
Bull
like
Durham is very good.
But
it is really good. Yeah,
Bull Durham is good, but it's like,
I saw it for the first time this year. I'm not a baseball guy, not a baseball sports movie guy generally. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I will say he's 33 in the film and he's represented as extremely over the hill. So watching it as almost 33 was
true in baseball.
Right.
I mean, I think it's
true.
the best baseball movie.
But it is
I do love baseball movies. I played baseball when I was young. I'm from Ohio. I can't help it. Marie's making a face. There's a certain, like, I guess he's from California, but there's a certain, like, normie Midwestern energy to Kevin Costner that I just, like, respond to. And I know he's from California by way of New Orleans in half of these movies of the last few years here. But, like, I don't know. He just, like, there's something cool about him that, I responded to as a kid and still do.
All right, we'll talk more Costner in a second. We have to do our silly little thing where we tell people how to watch the movie, because the movie is very good and we want everyone to watch the movie.
Yeah.
If you're in the United States, you can watch it at any of the usual places. You can rent it from whatever. It's probably at your local library. Go check them out. Love those guys. Shout out to those guys. Ian, if someone is down there in Oaxaca, Mexico, where can they watch the film?
If they're roundabout here, they're going to have to go to Amazon or to Apple TV.
Now, for your education, Marie and Chad, I used to do this bit on the show where I would say that Apple TV in Mexico is called Manzana TV because that's how you say it in Spanish, and then Ian would get mad because that's not true. And so I don't do that bit anymore because it's not very respectful, but I can't help it if someone else wanders in to say that it's called something like that in Mexico, and so I just can't help it if something like this happens.
Manzana TV.
Yeah, now who
Manzana
do you think this is, Ian? This is now a guessing game. You guys can guess too.
Yeah, and I insist that you do guess because it makes me feel less insane that their voices are unrecognizable to me.
This is a fake or famous. I said fake. That's true. Also, this is a famous person associated with the state of Texas.
Manzana TV.
Is it Shelley Duvall?
No.
Selena?
Manzana TV.
No, it's more of a Southern accent.
Stephen F. Austin.
Stone Cold.
Manzana TV.
Do you have any guesses?
Matthew McConaughey.
Actually, you're. That's a good guess, Marie, because last week a very similar voice turned out to have been Clint Eastwood, I believe.
Yeah, wait, do I still have that one? This was supposed to be Clint Eastwood.
Manzana TV.
Like when you type Clint Eastwood into the AI voice generator.
This
Anyway,
is what would actually happen
Manzana
if the
TV.
entity tried to pretend to be Simon Pegg. It would come out like this,
Right.
I think.
yeah,
But
it's supposed to be Sandy Cheeks from SpongeBob
Ah.
Wait,
SquarePants.
so it
okay.
actually does sound like her. I thought
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like
That's not bad.
I
Not
thought it
terrible.
was like a sped up.
No.
but- Okay.
It's bad in a different way. Anyway, Manzana TV. It's
This is
available. down there.
Ardanita from SpongeBob in Mexico.
What's her name? What's her name? Brandon?
Ardanita, like little sand.
That's cute.
I will say I own this movie on Blu-ray. We did not watch. We watched it at the Blank Check Studio from iTunes
Nice.
because my Blu-rays are in storage. But I own the 10-film Warner Brothers box set. Marie's covering her face, which has a really weird. They only have Dirty Harry 1 and 3, I think, in it. Like, it's a very bizarre collection of a Blu-ray box set. They also include Trouble with the Curve.
Okay.
For some
the
reason.
whole span.
I think
That's
it was
Clint's
sort
baseball
of.
movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, which I haven't seen. Which I think is the only one in there that he didn't, technically credited direct. Where they have like and they don't have Dirty Harry 1, but they have Sudden Impact, which he did direct. So I don't know. It's a very weird box set, but they don't have a complete collection of his Warner Brothers shit, which they should.
Yeah, I have noticed this as well. I thought when you brought up the Blu-ray that you were going to bring up the menu art, which is also the poster, the default poster on Letterboxd, in which they take poor TJ Lother's face and make him look like the boy from The Boy, or the boy from Brahms' The Boy 2. He looks like the evil little doll. Let me see if I can pull it up here. I have no idea why they did this. Oh, I have it on my phone. I took a picture of it.
It's the Letterboxd poster?
It's the Letterboxd poster, but I
thought the Letterboxd poster was just them walking together.
It is, but if you look
also,
at the boy's face, he has been...
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He got bramified.
he got bromsed. He got bromsed.
Did they also put little shorts on him?
Put shorts on.
Oh
him.
yeah. They went.
Wow. They went
basic
woke.
cable showgirls. Yeah.
This Letterboxd went woke on our asses.
All right, so we're talking Costner. Now, Kevin Costner is in an interesting position at this time. And he and Clint have kind of been like chasing each other. Especially, there's this one, Chad, I don't know if you've read any biographies of Clint Eastwood.
I don't know if I have. There might be is there a Clint Eastwood on Clint Eastwood, one of those books? I might have read that a long time ago. Those are usually kind of fake books, though, where they're just kind of collections of interviews, basically.
Yeah, I have some of those.
I might have read that a long time ago, but yeah.
So, in the process of this show, I've been reading through two of them. There's the Richard Schickel authorized one, which is very fawning. And then there's one by a guy named Patrick McGilligan who fucking hates Clint Eastwood's guts and thinks he should be shot into the sun. Like, he hates him so much. And it's really fun to read both of them.
Uh-huh.
Now, McGilligan would have you believe that Clint hated Costner and felt like Costner was like chomping at his heels. And that is why he makes Unforgiven, because Costner directs a Western, his first directorial outing, and he wins Best Director and Best Picture. Don't know if this is true, but they have been kind of chasing each other around because the reason, like the thing that brings Westerns back after Heaven's Gate scares Hollywood off of Westerns for like 5 years is the twin successes of Silverado and Pale Rider, which are both in 85, and Kevin Costner stars in Silverado. Then, bizarrely, Columbia has the rights to Bird, the script that became Bird, the Charlie Parker movie, and Clint wanted to make it, but at Warner's, and so Columbia agreed to trade the Bird project to Warner's for the Tony Scott film Revenge, which had not been made yet, but that stars Kevin Costner.
Yes.
Weird to imagine anyone wanting to make the movie Revenge that much. I mean, it's fine, but it's just like, it's not.
I watched it recently.
Distinct.
I saw the director's cut that he did before he died, which sort of like, I don't know if you've seen that, but it kind of like recuts it into his later style in a little bit of a way. And I don't know, it's kind of interesting. It's not one of his best movies, but
no. But Tarantino says that it is Tony Scott's best film because he's got to say something wacky.
That's a very Tarantino take. Yeah.
And so then you've got Dances with Wolves, which is a big ass hit, and it wins the Oscars for Best Director and Best Picture. And Costner gets both of those because he produces it as well. And that's 2 years before Clint does the same thing with Unforgiven. And then also Costner does JFK and The Bodyguard right before Clint does In the Line of Fire.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is sort of a combination of those two films. Mm-hmm. So they're like chasing each other around. This script starts, it's a John Lee Hancock script. This is before he goes on to direct The Blind Side and
The Founder.
And the Highwaymen.
The Highwaymen with Costner.
All of Lights, Camera Jackson's favorite films.
The best 4 film run of all time, according to Lights.
Yeah,
I believe John Lee Hancock's his next film is going directly to United Airlines. I think it is going to release on planes. But Hancock writes this. He's from Texas. He remembered running around a field in a Casper, the Friendly Ghost costume as a little boy, with his brother, not with a escaped convict. So the script is kind of hot. Spielberg is apparently potentially interested.
That makes a lot of sense.
And then decides he's going to do Jurassic Park.
Laura Dern could do both. Don't know
exactly.
why. So I guess Schindler's List. But
plus, it's pretty Sugarland Expressy in some ways, right?
Then Clint originally wants to direct it without starring in it because he's, I think, like worn out from all of the Unforgiven and he's, I think, he's just finished shooting In the Line of Fire. He's like, he's had a big year. And then Costner says he'll only do it if Clint is in it too for the box office potential of the two of them.
Oh, interesting.
And Clint says there isn't really a big part for me. And Costner suggests the Red part. And at this point in the script, the Red character has no prior relationship to the Butch character, which to me is like the whole movie. It's bizarre that the film doesn't include that connection until after Clint asks for a rewrite, which it seems like Costner and Hancock do together, and then the movie is a go at that point. But I think it's fascinating to think about, as much as they seem to have maybe butted heads on set, this movie cannot exist without Costner in a certain sense. And I think he's very good in it. I mean, I don't know what you guys, It's also kind of against type for him.
It's interesting that I didn't know that Clint almost starred in it. I don't think he would work as well because I think that
Clint was supposed to be...
That's what you're saying, right?
Well, so there's... Originally, I think Spielberg wanted Clint to play the Butch role. I don't know if that's when Spielberg was thinking about making it or just when he said to his friend Clint, you should...
This is a Clint Eastwood type.
Yes. But Clint apparently thought he was too old. Again, this is according to the guy who thinks he's a piece of shit. And so he was going to make it Bird style without his own face on screen.
Right.
And then Costner talked him into being the second lead of the film.
We were talking about this earlier. We were trying to figure out if there was another Eastwood movie where he directed it and also was in it, but was not the lead. And I think the closest is $1 Million Baby.
Yes, I think so. I mean, he's not exactly the lead of City Heat, but he also is not exactly the director of City Heat. And I would say that's not exactly a movie. Is the worst part. Ian liked it.
I have not seen that.
It's a movie with Clint Eastwood and Burt Reynolds and Richard Roundtree, and it's boring. So clearly something went awry.
Yeah.
I think it depends almost entirely on your threshold for stupidity, both intentional and otherwise, in a film.
But even compared to $1 Million Baby, I mean, like, he's arguably a co-lead in that. He was nominated for Best Actor. This, not that his performance would be nominated in this movie, although he is fun in it. But like, if it was, he would be a supporting actor in this, I think.
Well, it's hard to tell, but it seems like he might be in Juror Number 2, his movie he's working on now.
Which I brought up, which I'm very excited for. I wonder, is he playing the judge? Is he playing the guy that is accused of murder that Nicholas Hoult has to? I bet you it's that. I'd put money on he's the guy that Nicholas Hoult knows is actually innocent but is getting railroaded.
He's the Richard Jewell of this picture.
I bet.
He's the Sully Sullenberger. I mean, we've said this on the show before, and we'll talk about some labor stuff in a bit. We couldn't be more in support of the actors
ongoing
and the
strikes.
writers on strike. If the strike goes on so long that for some reason Clint Eastwood, 93-year-old man, is not able to finish the film, Zaslav is going to learn my name. We'll just put it that way.
I just feel like they should give They should give Clint a waiver.
Yeah.
Like, the man, he gets things
You're
done.
talking like Ron Perlman, like there's a lot of ways to lose your house.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know if they shot for 2-3 weeks. They probably wrapped, right? Like,
Clint Eastwood style. Yeah, they did coverage and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think he was recently photographed and watermarked to death in Carmel. So I think he's...
Do you know about these accounts?
Past guest of the show, John Semley, wrote the definitive article about the Clint accounts for Defector.
But the pictures are... I didn't assume that they were recent. I thought they were just like a potpourri of Clint moments from the past, They
are, but some of them look very similar to and some of them are from the set of Juror Number 2 in Savannah.
Okay.
And I think you can sort of track the spinal curvature to see when this picture was taken. I love the man very much.
We had a recent exchange. Former guest on the podcast, Forrest Tiffany, was following one of these accounts and was reached out to by another one of these accounts. I was okay, we can tell this story. We'll check with him afterwards. But the other account reached out to him in the DMs to say that Clint would not want you to be following the other account. That is, which is really powerful.
Right. And spoiler for the article that John Semley wrote, but he eventually gets in contact with Morgan Eastwood, the youngest of Eastwood's children, who confirms that has never like looked at Twitter in his life. He doesn't know what any of it is.
100%.
Of course. Yeah.
He's golfing, he's driving around, he's flying his helicopter. Like he's not interested in any of this. So the film is about an escaped convict played by Kevin Costner. Character's name is Robert Butch Haynes, who breaks out of prison in Texas and ends up sort of by accident taking a young boy captive. The young boy's name is Philip Buzz Perry, played by an actor named TJ Lothar, and the two of them drive all over Texas while they're being pursued by a Texas Ranger played by Clint Eastwood, Chief Red Garnett. Should we go through the plot a little bit? Should we go through how do we want to do this?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's great. Let's do it.
So
the film does not open with Butch.
The film does open with Butch.
Yeah.
Well, it opens with the sun.
It opens with this beautiful, it's sun
maybe
shot.
Clint's most arresting shot that I can think of.
Really great. Yeah.
Where Buzz is like he's laying in the grass surrounded by...
Butch is laying in the
grass. Butch is laying in the grass surrounded by...
As if he's relaxing.
Yes.
Money and a Casper the Friendly Ghost mask. Yeah, and he's like basking. Now, this blew my mind because I didn't know anything about this movie, and I'm a little stinker. So our next episode is going to be about the movie Casper, in which Clint Eastwood appears for 3 seconds.
My jaw was on the floor for half of this film because this has to be the movie that features the most Casper talk that's not part of the official
Could you guys
franchise.
find any... I mean, I looked this up because I was like, is Clint a Casper guy? How did this happen?
I'm trying to figure it out. The only thing I can figure is that I believe Casper is produced by Steven Spielberg.
So Spielberg got like him, Mel Gibson, and was it Rodney Dangerfield or someone else to do their cameos? Yeah. Because he like convinced everyone to do it.
And I know that Spielberg shot a cameo and then didn't like the way he looked on screen.
Well, yes. Or
I guess.
What's the guy's name who directed it? Brad Silberling.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He apparently made the choice to cut it.
He didn't want to be shown up.
Or just no. I mean, how could you not be? But like, the sequence went on for too long, and Spielberg was like the least charismatic on camera.
It's funny to say that the sequence went on for too long because the whole next episode of this podcast is going to be me getting yelled at for how short this sequence is, and we're still doing an episode on it. But yeah, it is. And I'm on pins and needles the whole time being like, well, it's not going to turn out to be Casper, right? It's just going to be a generic like ghost costume.
They initially call it a friendly ghost, right? And then they just start straight up saying Casper.
Casper. Yeah, they say Casper. Casper's around at this time. He's Casper starts in the 40s, I think, and is apparently poorly regarded by animation fans because every Casper short is basically identical in plot. I didn't realize this. I've
never
like
seen
one
any Casper shorts. Do you know the fan theory that he is the ghost of Richie Rich?
I didn't know that, but I do know this. That
they have similar eyes now that you say that.
Yeah, they do. Well, I think the same guy drew them and got lazy.
Yeah.
But there's a Netflix show from a couple years ago called Harvey Street Girls, I think, which it's a cartoon show that is like all of the Harvey characters in one show. One of them is voiced by Lauren Lapkus, and I know that Jack Quaid of Oppenheimer and recent SAG picket line fame, he plays Richie Rich, and Bobby Moynihan plays Casper. So
that's very interesting.
So they're different guys on that show, anyway. I don't know if Hot Stuff the Little Devil shows up or not, but I think Baby Huey is also involved. Is that? These are all like disturbing characters. So I think it works that he's this friendly ghost. I mean, so we start with this dreamy opening sequence, and then there is a very escape from Alcatraz escape from the prison. Yeah, now I've never escaped from a prison. I don't know if most prison escapes end up resembling the one in Escape from Alcatraz.
I actually appreciate it. It felt like just shorthands, not like a shortcut, but just like saying, look, we've already shown you how this happened once, so you get it, right? You get how this goes. Yeah.
How many dogs are in your apartment right now, Ian?
Great question. Okay. Where they're coming from.
It was kind of the easiest prison escape.
Yeah,
of
it was
all
very.
time.
Yeah, it was very chill.
They're like making noise. They're like,
his co-escapee,
right?
Whose name is what's the guy's name?
It's
Terry.
Polish,
Terry
right?
Pugh.
Oh, the actor is.
Yeah, the actor is Keith Zarabaika, I would guess.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He plays the he's the guy who takes over when Gary Oldman, Jim Gordon fakes his death in the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then
Right.
he also does a ton of voiceover stuff. He's in like every video game, this guy.
Yeah.
He's sort of like the Michael Rooker role.
Yes.
Basically. Like,
Yes.
but not him.
And he calls the guy in the next cell Daddy. And it's unclear if that's his actual father or just like a prison nickname for an old man.
I think
But
it's thematic.
I think
kicks
like
off the
given his
thematic
behavior
daddy.
later,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
probably
So they break out, they kidnap this guy's car. They kidnap his car. It's a great podcast. Then they kind of just, I mean, it all seems very happenstance. I don't know. It's interesting that what was literally like an entire other Clint Eastwood movie is just the 1 minute opening of this film.
yeah.
Have you guys seen Escape from Alcatraz?
Yeah.
No.
Many times. That was
It's
another
wonderful.
movie I watched a lot.
It's a good
as
one.
kid. It's
Mhm.
very good.
It's a real good one. You get to see Clint's little butt.
It's
You see-
true.
They walk him naked into Alcatraz.
But is it
Um,
oily like it is in Tightrope?
No, that's a good point. You've already seen
Mhm.
it. Yeah. It's looking good though. He's looking great. And it's prior to Tightrope, so it's sort of a more
young.
a little-
relatively
little-
youthful, but
Yeah.
he's only like
More
48 in that one.
elasticity. Yeah.
Yeah, 49 actually. So then they end up in, or do we first see the Halloween sequence? Then we've seen the Halloween
do,
sequence, right?
yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
We introduced the family.
Yeah. Have you guys been to Texas?
Oh yeah.
Anybody? Okay.
Mm.
I've never been. And this is obviously shot in the summer. Like I know that it was literally shot in the summer, but it's very obviously summer. But is Halloween time in Texas just like this? Because like the film is supposed to take place between Halloween and sometime before November 22nd, 1963. But it looks so hot. Is it just hot there
Well,
all the time?
I think geographically they're around Austin.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean it never gets freezing cold. It does snow in like Dallas, but Austin is a little more to the south. So,
Yeah, it's hot.
it's yeah.
I love these Halloween sequences, I will tell you.
Yeah.
In any film, this is maybe just cheap nostalgia, but
Yeah.
this pretty much always works for me. I will try not to fawn too much, but you guys were both involved in a picture called Linoleum that came out
We were.
last year. Has a Halloween sequence.
Yeah,
where it
I did think of that Halloween. sequence.
Every time this, I just, I love it. Is to see the kids, because I think it's so approximate to what the actual experience of Halloween is, just to be running around in a costume, kind of excited that there's extra attention on you. So
Yeah.
maybe this is extrapolating too much, but it seems like it would be easier to make kids act the way you want them to act because it's a similar
Yeah.
energy. But you guys have seen it firsthand, maybe. So I don't know.
Well,
Well-
I'll also tell you that it's also easy to
Not have children.
not have children
'Cause they're
on
wearing
set where
masks.
you put them
Yeah.
in.
So
Mm, very
I
good
was
point.
wearing a mask.
She
I
was
would, yeah.
Our first AD.
I mean, because we filmed it during COVID, so like working with
Right.
kids was a nightmare, and
we
working with
also had
extras
people
was a
wearing
nightmare.
N95s under their
Yeah.
masks
Right.
while
Mm.
shooting.
Yeah.
Yes, but it does have the feeling. It's an easy feeling of nostalgia and sort of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the excitement of the unknown and stuff like
So
that.
I have a question for
Yeah.
the crew. Am I alone in feeling like my sympathies were being played with when we see that, mom doesn't allow her kids to celebrate Halloween because she's a Jehovah's Witness, and then she gets attacked in the next scene, and I'm kind of like, is that bad? Am I a sociopath?
No.
You
No,
know what
I
I'm
think
trying to
this
say
is-
here?
This is reasonable because it is not the traditional setup in terms of how much we are supposed to be sympathizing with this woman
With
who
the
is
mom,
right.
yeah.
yeah,
she
being
deserved.
No,
this?
she did not.
I think that is what you're saying.
she did not deserve to be assaulted by the scary Michael Rooker guy who's in The Dark Knight.
yeah.
But it sets it up in a way where you are not immediately like, this kid needs to go back to his mom.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think
Yeah.
that it's definitely setting up that he's kind of alienated and that he.
That one shot of him with his like hand on the window as like
With
the
the
kids
water
are throwing
balloons?
water
Oh, yeah.
balloons at him is heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Well, Ian, you did a little digging about the Jehovah's Witnesses because I don't really know them except for the no birthdays, no Halloween, no
Uh-huh.
Christmas
Yeah.
thing, and it's why Prince didn't play Darling Nikki for many years because he became one, and that's about all I know. So do you have any further insight for us, Ian?
Sure. It is also pretty popular down here in Mexico. So I see Jehovah's Witnesses, Testigos de Jehovah all the time. And there's some specific things that I was not aware of. I was familiar with the birthday thing. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the fact that only 144,000 people are going to be saved on Judgment Day, according to the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Where did they get that number?
Revelations was all I could get out of it. I'm not sure how they arrived at that
cool.
calculus.
Speaking of Revelations, you should watch End of Days. But anyway, continue.
Ooh, there you go. There you go.
Nice. Yeah. Well, you should watch Pale Rider. Speaking of Revelations, because it invokes...
Have I seen Pale Rider?
That's the one from the 80s that's like Shane.
No.
It's like an update of Shane.
I have not seen Pale Rider. I've seen High Plains Drifter.
High Plains Drifter is great. It's
the slightly better
Don
version.
Siegel, or is that...
That's Clint. That's Clint's second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So 144,000 people are going to heaven.
Right. When
Do
you
they
die,
know who yet? Or
that's what they're trying to figure out. They've already had a couple abortive apocalypses, so they had to do one of those resets where they say like, oh, the math was a little bit off. It's actually this year, whatever.
Yeah.
And they hate the United Nations. They don't accept blood transfusions. They think it's the United Nations because of their insignia. It's like also taken from Revelations, the Great Scarlet Beast. So they think this is like,
because they are sort of interesting in that some of their positions incidentally line up with our, like they refuse military service.
Correct. Yeah, they have a basis of pacifism. They don't. They won't say the Pledge of Allegiance because they feel like it's pledging your loyalty to an entity that's not God. And again, these are things that are I think we're sympathetic to.
But everything that people leveled at Kennedy, that because he was a Catholic, he was going to be more loyal to the Pope than to the Senate or whatever.
Yeah.
Are actually true of Jehovah's Witnesses. It seems like.
Correct.
Very interesting.
Yes. Yeah. And they are persecuted while also being maybe not great in many capacities. So I
relate to them quite a bit.
Yeah. I was going to say Falun Gong or something, but yes.
Yeah.
You too, Jake. You also are persecuted and nasty.
Hey, look, I also represent 7,000 years of Chinese tradition or whatever.
Yeah.
Clint should make a Shen Yun movie. Talk about railroading.
Oh, God.
Wouldn't that be cool? Sorry. So they're sort of bad, but also they've been... I mean, I know that they were often accused of being communists just because they weren't as loyal to the United States.
Countercultural, I think. Yes. I don't think any of their beliefs really resemble leftist beliefs.
When did they start, like, spreading or evangelizing?
They're from the late 19th century, but they...
Like the 1870s or something, right?
Yeah, exactly, 1870s. But they confusingly take, I don't want to get this wrong, but they take some date of like 1913 or something as like the official date of the beginning of the end of the world, 1914.
Okay.
So this is...
what is it, World War I related?
No, this was just something they believed was the end of like the good times and the beginning of the bad times. So it meant that you had to basically not practice traditional Christian, like mainstream practices anymore. So they had to create their own doctrine to differentiate themselves.
Got it.
And this is where a lot of this stuff starts: the birthdays and the blood transfusions, etc.
Neither of those.
Right. Yes, the not birthdays.
The not.
What a shitty decision. Like, we want more people to join our religion. Let's tell them they can't have birthdays.
Well, maybe that's an indication of how serious they are. That they're not.
No, see, if I was trying to get more congregants, I'd be like, birthdays every day.
Premarital sex is cool. It's actually, you have to have premarital sex to get into heaven.
Yeah. Unusual for a cult to put a hard limit also on the number of members who are going to ascend to heaven.
Wasn't it Calvinists who are they the predestination guys?
They are, yes. That's right.
That's the Schrader religion?
That's Paul Schrader.
Yes.
Yeah. Leonard, I assume, as well. So this woman, Jennifer Griffin, who plays Gladys Perry, she, I think has a sympathetic face while also believably being a Jehovah's Witness. There is the interaction with the dad when she explains that they don't celebrate Halloween because of their religious beliefs. Like, the dad is very cool about this for 1963.
Yeah.
Which,
I know, but it's Texas. I mean, people are like, God,
stay out of somebody
down
else's business or something.
I guess so. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, but only in specific situations,
Right.
and I could easily see that Jehovah's Witnesses like not counting as Christians to them. But and then we've got this. So she's in. Her name's Jennifer Griffin. She is in The Stars Fell on Henrietta, which is the only Malpaso production not directed by Clint in the 90s. This is a
Interesting.
movie that is widely regarded to be not worth watching, but we'll watch it.
Is it also set in Texas?
I believe it's in.
Because she's in some Linklater stuff, and I think
she's in Boyhood and Apollo
local...
10 and a half. Yeah, a lot of these people seem like they must be Texan because almost everyone in this cast was on Walker, Texas Ranger at some point.
Yep.
There was a period of this podcast where literally every movie had several cast members from the Planet of the Apes television show on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think just because like that show had so many people. I don't know. And then we've got TJ Lowther or maybe Lowther, I don't know, as Philip. The kid's from Utah. He doesn't really do a ton of stuff before or after this, although notably, prior to this film, he's in a movie called Neon City. Have either of you seen Neon City?
No, but I saw that had come up, and it looks kind of interesting.
So it does. It's a Mad Max ripoff with Michael Ironside and Vanity. Speaking of things. But it's directed by a guy named Monty Markham, who is mostly an actor. He's only directed a couple things. But most recently, you may have seen him on I Think You Should Leave as the Johnny Carson impersonator who is allowed to hit. So that guy directed a movie with TJ. And he does a couple more kid roles, and then he does one episode of Grey's Anatomy in 2009 as an intern. And it's really weird because he's, he looks like a man now.
I think he's quite good in this movie.
Oh, yeah. He turns it in. He covers it there.
Yeah.
He can cry. Like I'm trying to think of the other Clint, little boy roles. And obviously
we've had Kyle Eastwood, who I think we also
Kyle in
liked decently. Yeah.
In Honky Tonk Man, right?
Yeah. He's pretty good in that. Well, and Allison in Tightrope is one of the better child performances, I think.
I was surprised by how good she was.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I think what's impressive about this performance is that it's he's mostly silent. He doesn't talk much at all, but you do get a sense that there is a character rather than just he's not a baby puppet like in certain Clint films.
There's something about his reactions that remind me of the kid in The Night of the Hunter a little bit, where it's like very kind of visceral and sort of expressionistic, but like works still. Like I don't know. I found him quite moving in the film, especially at the end when he pulls the gun on him as he taught him to do.
Well, the scenes where he's holding a gun, you can tell the gun is just too heavy for this little boy to like hold straight, and there's something very moving about that. Like he can't keep it, pointed.
Yeah, and as Chad is saying, I think he does a great job of not knowing how to react to things, which is a real child response, not a movie child response. Just like being unsure and waiting to figure out what they're supposed to feel about something. Which is
I found his LinkedIn.
TJ Lowther.
Is he one of these guys who publishes like opinion pieces on LinkedIn?
No, he's a creative director, copywriter at an ad agency in Salt Lake City.
All right. So, he's from Salt Lake City. Yeah. So good for TJ. He's probably doing fine.
And he graduated magna cum laude from USC with a degree in English.
Oh,
all right.
Okay.
What's up, TJ? Come on the pod.
I feel like he would. I mean,
that's probably the closest we could get. Maybe Morgan seems like she might be sort of hip to all this. Maybe we can whatever.
Does she still act?
I don't know if she's currently acting. I think most of them are in The Mule. I don't know if she is though. I can't remember.
Morgan is his youngest daughter.
His youngest daughter with Dina Eastwood.
And then Francesca is Francis Fisher's daughter.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Francesca, by the way, is in utero when this movie's being filmed, and basically she's technically Francesca was at the sort of a reproductive rights question. Francesca was in let's see. Frances was pregnant when
better
when she attended the Unforgiven Oscars, although was not publicly pregnant. And so when she came to the set of this film showing, that was like basically the announcement that they were having a child together. And I think that does inform some of the dad stuff in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, we're jumping around a lot, but the baby's born in like December or something. So after the movie's wrapped, but they're editing it, and they're up at his ranch in Northern California. And Clint apparently, once Frances went into labor, flew her to the hospital in his helicopter. Pretty cool. And was present for her birth. I believe he was not present for the births of any of his prior children.
That
so
tracks.
He's trying to become a different dad.
Yeah, he's trying not to be Alaska dad. In this, they go on the road. First with Terry, who is a piece of shit. And he's
Fuck Terry.
That was so scary. Him looking at the little boy's pee-pee.
Packer. Yeah. Calling it puny. So this is the second Clint Eastwood film with a small penis humiliation scene in a row. Because I don't know if you remember in Unforgiven, that's the reason why the cowboy slashes Anna Thompson's face, is because she gives a giggle when he pulls his pants down.
I mean, Clint understands it's a great shortcut for masculinity.
One of the first lines of the movie is her laughing and saying, "It's so small."
It's so small, yeah. But I think this movie gives a wonderful solution to this, which is you just need a man Costner to say, that's fine.
Well,
that's
you
fine.
just need a gun and a different man to tell you that it's good for your age.
Yeah, what I like is that he doesn't, you know, he's not lying to him. He's not like, he's just saying, no, it's fine. That's fine. You know, don't worry about it. I did ask
Chad at that moment. I was like, is this a thing that like guys do? Like, you guys check each other's dicks out and you're like, oh, it's pretty good.
He said no. Had this experience. Chad, you've not?
No.
Ian, you have 5 brothers, so I wonder if...
I do have an answer to this question that's not no, but it wasn't brother related. I remember distinctly being at a day camp, and the counselor, we went to the urinals, and I was, you know, I guess they're just looking around. I was like blown away. I was probably, 7 years old, and I was like, wow, there's just like... something else is going on here. This guy's got anatomy that I don't even have. So I guess I was impressed. I don't think it reflected back onto me, but I was just sort of like, aware that this was going to be a factor eventually.
I mean, I was thinking about this, and we haven't set up our Patreon yet, but I think when we do, that this should be a tier that we offer.
Hold on.
Where
dick talk?
Well, no, you can just get, if you're concerned.
Okay,
and you have a dick, you can we'll get on Zoom with you, and it's not...
We do the opposite of humiliation.
We'll just say, it looks great. You know what? You're doing fine.
It looks great for your age.
Regardless of who you are, what you're...
It's a good size for a boy your age. And I think maybe we shouldn't even have bonus episodes. I think maybe this is all the Patreon is.
I think if that's all you offer, you're going to be great.
This is like... Yeah, kind of like a Chris Gethard's Beautiful Anonymous thing. We just really connect with people. I think this is nice.
People up about their dicks. I do think that in the film, it is, the first thing he does is let him hold the gun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when he's
he
scared,
says, like, pointed at me.
And he's been humiliated. He was slapped by Perry.
Yep.
Like, he gives him power is like their first interaction.
Yeah.
And he kind of continues to do that throughout the film. Like,
power and trust, right? I think were the two big things where he's like allowing him to make the decisions and saying, like, I believe that you will do the right thing regardless of what they're talking about.
Right. And then in the end, he does when Costner is not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Right.
In his most kind of extreme behavior, he stops him and kind of implements the lessons that he taught him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I have a book by Kaye Du Cinema that's like a monograph on Clint. This guy goes apeshit for this movie because of like the sort of cycle of violence and bad parenting, but also like best attempt parenting, where And it even goes, I mean, as we were talking about before, basically at this point, we're introduced to Red Garnett, who is a Texas Ranger, who is the one who's going to track these guys down. At this point, it's still the two guys.
And we get basically a reproduction of something we've seen in several Clint movies now, which is old school Clint, law enforcement type guy, young woman coming in to try to put him on a new perspective.
And
although I think
befuddled by technology and a woman speaking.
Yes.
What's interesting, and this has become kind of like a thesis of this podcast, is that, I was just talking to somebody at a barbecue yesterday, and they were like, what are you doing this weekend? I'm doing my Clint Eastwood podcast. And they're like, oh, he's like a raging Republican, isn't he? And I'm like, not exactly. Because he makes these movies where he's often playing this guy who thinks that Laura Dern is the new secretary, and he says you got to have a hard backside and a good sense of humor, I assume, because he's going to spank her a lot. But then Clint Eastwood is the one who he read the end of the script before he agreed to make the movie. Like, he knows that
he will be proven wrong. That this character will come around.
Right.
But it's not even proven wrong, because his character usually just like sees the value of this person. Like, it's not like he doesn't really get particularly humiliated or forced to agree to this person's being here. So Dern comes in playing Sally Gerber. This is the same year as Jurassic Park, as you mentioned, Marie. And Dern and Goldblum attend the premiere of this film together because they were dating briefly. Maybe the tallest couple of all time. And she's great in this, I think. She's terrific.
Yeah.
She does a really good Texan accent, despite being, a Hollywood kid.
So do we think that Clint Eastwood watched Wild at Heart? Or
That's a great
Blue
question.
Velvet? I would love to know.
Wait,
if
what
happens.
was the year that he was the president of the jury at Cannes?
94, the Pulp Fiction year.
Oh, it was Pulp Fiction year. Okay.
Or I guess Ramblin' Rose, which I have not seen.
But Clint and Bruce Dern are in Hang 'em High together.
That's what I was. Yeah, I think she knows true. Bruce. So
yeah,
and he probably knew Diane Ladd, perhaps biblically, just based on numbers.
Just his reputation,
the whole thing. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting. So Miss Golden Globe is almost always some famous person's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And both Laura Dern was Miss Golden Globe, and then later Francesca Eastwood was Miss Golden Globe. I don't know if Allison was, but they have that connection. And she's terrific. He might have been turned on to her by Spielberg as well. I'm a
huge Dern head. I think she's a little underused here. That was my feeling. Yeah. I couldn't figure out. I agree with you that the relationship Red has with Butch is maybe the most interesting moral question that is brought up in the film, right? Because they're trying to figure out whether he did the right thing. We'll get to it in a second here. But Laura Dern, I'm not sure if they quite know how to make space for her.
Right.
Of the sequence where she speaks in the first person, like a mind.
Oh, you didn't when she went Will Graham mode?
I was gonna say she like her whole mind hunter thing, and I was like, oh, this isn't. I don't know. It just felt. I don't know. It rubbed me the wrong way.
She represents both like gender progress of a certain type, but she's also like she's from the governor. She is a criminologist from like a university, so she's sort of an intellectual. She's also like the Texas Rangers are sort of Texas's version of the FBI, but for the weird nation state of Texas. Mm-hmm. And he's also, he's like the lone man. Like she calls it a penal escape situation. Which,
it's a manhunt.
First of all, I've we've all had those. Come on.
Imagine the restraint that they he didn't make a joke out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, although they do make some dick jokes later, but she calls them out. But yeah, he rejects this like government kind of language about it. Do we like her pink and black jacket that she's wearing in the scene? I like it very much.
She looks phenomenal. I think the volume they achieve with her hair is impressive.
Yeah. She has the same volume at the premiere, by the way. It might have just been her. I was
concerned that the hair wasn't entirely period appropriate because it did look a little early 90s to me, but then I'm like, the 60s, they had big hair. It's fine.
Well, we can talk about the look of the film a little bit. So it's shot by Jack N. Green, the guy, the Clint's standard guy at this point. He's just he's one of our guys. I think the movie looks incredible. I think it looks like a Life magazine photo shoot. Like, I didn't realize it was a period film, but it looks fantastic.
Yeah, it takes you a little while to. It's one of those things where it's like, is this period or is it just rural in Texas? Yeah.
But they put that JFK coming to Dallas for the parade.
Yeah.
But I also think a huge part of the look of the film is the costumes. I mean, like his red jacket over the white jumpsuit is so like he just goes from one iconic look to another. Yeah. And I the Life magazine comparison is great. Like it looks like a, criminal Rockwell. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a beautiful film.
It's gorgeous. The reds pop, especially, and like the red truck is terrific. By the way, Jack N. Green's son was a camera assistant or something on the movie, whose name is something N. Green, which I think is very funny. Let me look this guy's name up. I forgot to write this down. He has since worked as a cinematographer himself. Yeah, Peter N. Green. Mm-hmm. And he's done camera and electrical department on a lot of movies, including 50 Shades Darker and the Left Behind with Nicolas Cage. But he also was the cinematographer on a movie that I almost brought up on our Unforgiven episode because it co-stars Saul Rubinek and Lainie Kazan, but the movie is called Oy Vey, My Son is Gay. Shot by...
Well, you did bring this film up.
I did?
Clear.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's not let you off the hook.
Wait, are you guys familiar with I, Mordecai?
I know about Mordecai, like the Johnny Depp film.
No. So when we premiered Linoleum at the Quad in New York, which is like a little theater here, they also were premiering this movie starring Judd Hirsch and Sean Astin about an elderly Jewish man who learns how to use an iPhone.
It's I, Mordecai, like iPhone. Holy shit. I thought it was going to be like iRobot.
Not like I, Claudius.
No,
that's what I was figuring.
No, it is. Yeah, it's about an elderly Jewish man who learns how to use a phone.
Holy shit. Whoa. Wow. Okay.
But I'm like very into this like very specific genre of like
Jewish like family comedies.
Oh yes, but like with like aging actors who like were big in the 70s and 80s. And
speaking of video stores, in my job at the video store, I was once. Ian, you asked me recently if I'd ever been hate crimed, and I said no, but I'm remembering now that I have been very lightly hate crimed when someone at the video store handed me a Blu-ray, I guess for my enjoyment, of a film called Jewtopia. That's what it's called. In which Jennifer Love Hewitt plays
like a fox who's a cop or something.
No. It's like a...
Oh, wow. Smitten with a Jewish woman, Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? And they were like, "You'll like this." Is that what they?
Or were they just returning so. It? Peter Stormare's in this.
Whoa.
Yeah, Tom Arnold's in it. This is Tom Arnold in 2012. The guy, the really gangly guy from Avatar.
Wait. It was directed by the guy who made that documentary Icarus.
Whoa, really?
Wait, really?
The Academy Award nominated, maybe winner?
I think winning.
Icarus?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
What the hell?
Well, look, sometimes a job is a job.
He made Jewtopia in 2012 and then nothing.
Yeah.
And then made Icarus 5 years later.
Wow.
This business, there's so much opportunity in this business.
Ian, I know you've been Googling
I knew you were
Judy
do
Hopps
this to me.
wigs.
Okay.
But that's a different sort of Jewtopia.
Yeah.
That's what Midjourney's for, bud. You kind of made this joke already, so I apologize.
It's okay.
Hey, speaking of Clint and Casper, Mel Gibson is one of the other people that Bill Pullman transforms into in that scene. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Mel Gibson, who famously asked a cop if she was Jewish, which is just like such a, and then she was. That's the weirdest thing.
Oh, why did he ask that?
He's just asking questions.
Yeah, he's doing like a demographic survey. Yeah.
Okay.
Census work.
Yeah. Then there's the scene. Yeah, we've got the scene where Perry calls him. Wait, no, he's not Perry. He's
Perry.
Terry.
Aren't the movie at all.
No. Terry looks at the boy's penis, and then this is when the scene when Costner goes into the gas station and says,
"Yeah,
how do."
This,
Where are your
if you weren't
sodies?
attracted to Kevin Costner, then Murray, I think you will.
Yeah.
You can safely say you will never be attracted to Kevin Costner.
And there's hard sodies in the back, and there's soft sodies
in the fridge.
So
fridge. I don't know what that means. Does anyone?
Is it?
Well, he says hot.
Versus...
He says hot sodies.
Oh, hot
cold.
Hot sody.
I think
Is
it's just
like a warm thing?
I think it's just the unrefrigerated ones in Texas are going to be hot, but he says hot and not warm. I don't know. Have I ever been to Japan?
No.
Because the vending machines in Japan have both hot and cold items, so you can get like a can of like a drinkable soup that is hot from the vending machine, and also like a plastic bottle of tea that's been heated in the vending machine for days on end, and presumably just full of the most deadly like
bacteria.
Yeah, or like plastic
BPA,
offshoots or
BPZ,
whatever.
They've achieved
BPZ,
cool.
is that what you said?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But this is the point where he realizes that Terry's got to go. Yeah. And Terry's chased Philip into the cornfield, which is like weirdly a sort of a half-grown cornfield. It's a sort of there's something very compelling and disturbing about the image of a cornfield that isn't like tall enough, because they're all just crawling through it. It's sort of like the scene in The Godfather in the orange grove, except like
oranges,
yeah. And then Costner just fucking headshots him, just domes him, which I didn't expect him to do.
Oh, I did.
Although I think this is part of the film playing with us, right? Because this turns out to be the second guy he's ever killed, but he projects the energy of a guy who this is like a Tuesday for him.
Yeah. And later in the film, he says, I've only killed two people, one who hurt my mom and one who hurt you, to Philip.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really powerful line there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this was going to be my 2 question, but I'll ask it now. If you're about to be executed by Kevin Costner in any kind of agricultural field, what crop would you like to be executed amongst?
I mean, maybe weed, baby. Like
weed, baby.
Just gotta get high before it
I
happens.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then maybe you won't be so worried about it.
Sure.
Yeah, hey,
everybody just chills
take the
out
edge
a
off.
little bit.
Yeah. Relax, man. I would go apricot, because I've been enjoying those lately, and I like trees.
So you're saying you could like grab one on the way down? I think
if the last thing I'm looking at is going to be, amaranth or whatever, I would rather it be apricots. And also, I think I'd be under cover of some shady trees as opposed to in a cornfield that is, it's hot. It would make me think of signs, and I would get scared.
I'd want to be executed by Kevin Costner in that one specific pumpkin patch in LA where celebrities go to have paparazzi photos taken of
Mr.
them.
Bones?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
You sure have.
Yeah, where everyone wears their big floppy like Carly Simon hat, and they have their ombre hair and the big flannel shirt. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think that I would just, bless the space with my death.
With your blood. Ian, you're in a lot of fields.
Yeah, this is a tough
job.
question. My whole perspective on cornfields has shifted quite a bit. I will say when he drives into the cornfield to sleep for a little bit, that is cool. Pretty upsetting. No, not cool at all. It's like represents a huge nitrate investment.
I was about to say they're ruining a lot of crop.
Yeah. Fair enough. I just think it's cool that you can just like, it's like Tron, like you can sort of see the whole path of the car behind you, which I think is sort of fun.
Your way out. the same way.
So where are you getting capped?
I guess I would like to be capped. You said amaranth. That would be kind of cool, actually. But I think olive, something long lived, so I could feel I live on.
Right.
Not Jehovah's Witness style.
That's beautiful.
That's really nice. So you'd probably get to be in Greece or something before getting killed.
Or like Southern California or something.
Oh yeah, sure. My dad's yard. I think he has one olive tree.
Yeah. I guess my answer is your dad's yard is where I would like Kevin Costner to kill.
I got a surprise for you. That's where it's gonna happen. This is after Field of Dreams, right?
It is, yeah.
So there is sort of that kind of Costner in the corn.
And that's an example of bad Costner to me. Also, we mentioned Highwaymen earlier, another bad Costner.
Also,
you watched that movie.
Written and directed by I saw it too. Written and directed by John Lee Hancock, who wrote this movie. Yes,
but I haven't
part
seen
of
it.
LCJ's top 4.
Why would you? Yeah, why would you want to watch that?
Instead
story?
Of just Arthur Penn. Oh, okay.
Well, no. Instead of following Bonnie and Clyde, why do you want to? It's like making a movie.
It's the most propaganda thing
about
ever.
The cops. Yeah.
It's about the guys chasing Bonnie and Clyde.
Yep.
Oh my God. No, thank you.
Yeah. Fuck those guys.
Then we've got, speaking of the cops, it comes to light. First of all, we've got Bradley Whitford in this film.
It took me like 3 scenes to recognize. I don't think I've seen such a slim, icy Bradley Whitford. He was dangerous.
The former Mr. Jane Kasmerick. They're not together anymore. Mm-hmm. Did you know about this? He was with the mom from Malcolm in the Middle for like a long time.
Wait, when did they split?
They split like 10 years ago, I think. He's with Amy Landecker now. They've eloped. We on the show have we've pre-refused advertising as an ideological act.
This is like when you decided not to go to prom or something.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm reconsidering if and only if we are offered sponsorship by Spindrift Nojito. Have you had this? It's lime and mint Spindrift.
That sounds delicious.
Very good.
I'm not the biggest Spindrift fan.
I wasn't either.
Are you a different brand that you love?
What's your seltz?
I prefer my seltzer to be more water based, whereas Spindrift feels like
they've got a little juice in there.
It's too much of the juice.
Wow, so, I've never had that complaint.
I know.
Spindrift? I feel like all Spindrift.
Polar?
You're polar.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're a polar office.
Okay, got it.
Is this going to be on mic?
Well, no, we can cut it out
right now. Yeah. Oh no, this should be on mic.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, we'll keep it in.
So we ordered a variety pack of polar seltzer from Amazon. We specifically requested like cranberry lime, plain lime, and grapefruit. Okay. What did we get sent? Please hold.
What if it was like a gun?
Yeah. It's like an old rag. It's got like a pile of somebody's rags. Mm-hmm. I'm excited.
What the fuck is this?
Orange vanilla, like creamsicle polar?
Yes.
That's...
Sorry, I like that.
Gross?
Send them over to me. Well,
the thing with those is like, because I've tried some of the LaCroix flavors that are more like desserty, like they're limoncello, where they somehow make it sweet. I don't know what they're doing because there's nothing in it.
Like the key lime pie LaCroix is the most disgusting in the world.
I'm gonna try one of these.
Okay. Ooh. Oh yeah. So speaking of podcast advertising, through HelloFresh or one of those, it might have been Purple Carrot, the vegan one. They would sometimes send you. Is it good?
I haven't tasted it yet. I'm just smelling it. It really does just smell like a creamsicle.
I mean, that doesn't... You don't threaten me with a good time. What is it? How does it taste? You're getting a live taste. Oh. Got a tongue out even.
Yeah.
It's too much vanilla.
The Doughboys are going to sue us for this. Yeah. Muscling on our turf. By the way, Kevin Costner is from Linwood.
He's on the Doughboys?
Huh? Which is next to Downey. Well, he was born in Linwood, which is next to where Nick Weiger grew up. But Linwood is actually where Weird Al Yankovic grew up.
Straight out of Linwood.
Right. And then, but Kevin Costner, interestingly...
Wasn't Costner from Compton?
He's from Compton. He grew up in Compton in the 50s when I guess that meant a different thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I ordered one of those meal kits, and they would sometimes send free like new products that you could, tell them if you liked it or not. And they once sent me, those San Pellegrino, like the tall ones, like Pellegrino Essenza or something like that. Yes. They sent one that was coffee flavored. You fucking kidding me?
That is sick. Yeah.
And this is why I don't trust Italians. And I've been talking about this on the show. I'm not kidding.
Speaking of, have you tried the new like Starbucks Italian drink, which is just
the
like
oleato?
olive oil coffee? Yeah.
No, but I read a theory that was introduced specifically to distract from the labor action at Starbucks by just, if we come up with a drink that's so gross that people talk about it instead of talking about the strikes. So it might be a psyop, but also...
Honestly, I believe it.
Have you had it?
I also believe Schultz capable of a false flag drink operation.
It seems like instant diarrhea.
Speaking of Howard Schultz...
The coffee's already going through you.
Let's
it up. Yep.
Return to our Bradley Whitford conversation.
Yes.
Because, of course, he's famously on The West Wing.
Yeah.
But also, he is apparently, this is quoting directly from Wikipedia, Bradley Whitford has been described as having, quote, liberal views. Shocking.
He would have voted for Obama a third time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yep. In 2019, he co-hosted a fundraiser for Democratic presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg alongside actress Gwyneth Paltrow, renowned for her electoral endorsements.
Wait, sorry. You're saying Whitford? We're talking about Bradley Whitford right now? But
Bradley
you
Whitford,
who also was a big Buttigieg guy?
Who?
Costner.
Oh, wow.
I thought Costner was a Republican.
Also, that guy in Africa.
Well, I guess he kind of is.
Buttigieg a bit.
Yeah.
I thought Costner.
Right, he supports Buttigieg.
I thought Costner was a Republican as well, because I just associate
Republican.
like Yellowstone, like all of that's like the other America or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, apologies to any of your listeners of this podcast who.
Of my entire family.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
My mom watches the one with Faith Hill.
Oh, 1883?
1923, 18, whatever. I don't fucking know. But Kevin Costner is actually like a very, I don't know, centrist Democrat.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he did support
he was
like a Republican governor or something of Wyoming.
He famously has built a bunch of machines to take oil out of seawater. Do you know about this? He literally has devised a machine to clean up oil spills, and like has been contracted by the U.S. government. They've used it like when there was the BP oil spill.
Yeah.
Is this like a water world invention?
Yeah. He got really into it. So Costner is having a whole Cameron thing. Do you know about the Horizon project? When I say that, it sounds like he's building a spaceship.
Talking about the 4 movies that he's doing?
The 4 movies. So Costner... Yeah.
We don't know if they're TV movies or if they're theatrical or
They better be theatrical.
Well, I believe they also star Sam Worthington, right?
Well, they do. But he says there's 170 speaking parts.
Whoa.
So it's going to star everybody.
I'm very excited for this. I
me
think
too.
it could be really good.
I hope it happens.
I hope they're not TV. I hope they're not like Paramount Plus originals. No,
I hope it's like Dow, where he becomes like a dictator and forces everyone to wear their costumes 24/7, and ends up mostly just being like
Dances with Wolves, famously
pornography or something.
Dances with Wolves was like considered somewhat liberal for the.
It was,
time.
Yep.
Yes.
They didn't know what cultural appropriation was then.
No, and he also, I think it was, it's like a Philadelphia or something, which, by the way, Bradley Whitford is in Philadelphia the same year. But it's one of those things where, like, now you wouldn't make a movie starring, like a movie about a guy with AIDS starring a character who's straight. But at the time...
I mean, they literally did, like, a couple years ago with Dallas Buyers Club.
By wouldn't, I mean shouldn't. Now you shouldn't.
But you're right. At the time, I think people like your Graham Greens and some native actors and stuff will talk about it being like a rare treat to see an even halfway respectful representation of Native
right.
people.
And I think that I haven't seen Dance with Wolves in forever, but I feel like the Mary McCormick thing is what really
Sure.
does
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
play
What is her?
But
She's like the rescued white child.
Yeah, she like.
Oh,
No, they
I'm
killed her
assuming-
family, I think, in like a
She's-
raid.
is she the
she's
Natalie
Natty
Wood?
Bumpo. Yes.
Okay. All right. I didn't remember that. That is a little better.
I think that's what it is. I haven't seen.
Speaking of native representation in film, did you hear the Uncle Marty thing? Did you hear about this? So
Uncle
apparently,
Marty, like Scorsese.
all the native actors on the set of Killers of the Flower Moon took to calling Scorsese Uncle Marty because they liked him so much.
Yeah, he's a G.
I can't wait for that movie. Oh my God.
Yeah, there's also, did you guys see that TikTok or something where a guy is filming Scorsese coming out of a building, which you shouldn't do. So don't film people just walking around. But Marty starts walking toward him, and he's like, "Oh my God, is he coming to talk to me?" And he's like, "What?" And then Scorsese walks straight past him, and the guy turns his camera around, and he's just made a beeline for a baby in a stroller because he just wants to go say hi to the baby. And this is, I think, Ian, I told you that I have this theory that old guys, once you get to the age where all your friends start dying, just as like an odds proposition, you have to start being nice to babies, because what if they're your reincarnated friends? What if all your friends who have died are reincarnated, and that baby in the stroller is like your friend from the soda shop or whatever? You got to say what's up. Anyway,
compelling.
What are we talking about? Perfect
We're
world.
at Bradley
Whitford, Pete.
So he's playing Oswald, basically. He's an FBI guy, but he just looks like an assassin.
Yeah.
He just stayed behind and was on the grassy knoll afterwards.
The governor that they keep referring to would be, what is his name? James Connolly? John Connolly?
Connolly.
Yeah, who's in the limo with Kennedy. Like,
yeah,
he gets
and
shot.
was the victim of the magic bullet. Yeah.
Right. But did he die, or he survived, right?
No, he lived. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he was a Democrat, but then Nixon wanted him as his running mate to try to
create a connection.
Yeah, to try to, counter the Lyndon Johnson Texas Democrat thing.
Yeah. So Bradley Whitford is in the film as like bad law enforcement, basically, to contrast with the two types of good law enforcement, Laura Dern and Clint Eastwood.
Right. Like there's this ongoing thing with Clint movies in the 90s and movies in the 90s in general, where like the shift, there's a shift from like the boogeyman is global communism to the boogeyman is the federal government. And like, this is sort of what like the all of the Ruby Ridge and Oklahoma City stuff, like you get the right-wing militias who are suddenly very suspicious of the government. And Clint is in this weird in-between zone where he is like he is a libertarian, he is sort of don't tread on me. But here he's playing this halfway position where he's a Texas FBI guy, essentially. Because like, Ian, you did some reading on the Texas Rangers. Do you have anything for us?
The timing of this is not great, because unfortunately what the Rangers were famous for in the late 50s and early 60s, one of the things they became famous for was
hockey.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Much prefer hockey to preventing black students from enrolling in white high schools and universities.
Don't do that. We're against that on the show.
Yeah. So
if anyone listening to this is actively doing that, turn off the podcast. You're not allowed.
That's right.
Anymore.
Yeah. So there was this like guy who gained a lot of popularity as like a peacekeeper. This ranger, maybe the head of the Rangers at that time. When in reality, what he did was just threaten to shoot any black child who tried to cross into, I think it was a community college, maybe. So there's that. There's some other involvements. Previously, of course, I think we know the Rangers were basically like Mexican hunters, effectively, in Texas.
Yeah.
So. Indian hunters
I
as well.
believe they talk about that in the Killers of the Flower Moon book. I have not seen the movie yet, but I did read the book. And there's a history of the Texas Rangers chapter.
Right. Like, that's why the FBI gets created, is because they need guys who aren't cowboys who like swear fealty to Leonardo DiCaprio. By the way, I want to apologize. The Texas Rangers are a baseball team. I think I might have been thinking of the Dallas Stars.
I thought you just like randomly brought up hockey as like a not complete non sequitur, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's so funny.
And
I
also,
did, actually. That's
George
what I
W.
did.
Bush wanted to own the Texas Rangers.
He did.
And
Right.
Or he did own them?
Yeah.
Can we get the shoe guy on the show? The guy who threw the shoes. He's a
An
journalist.
actual American hero.
We've had
Yeah.
journalists on that. He's an Iraqi hero. He's a
feel
world
like
hero.
He's on Twitter. I feel like you can get him. You should get him on the 1517 to Paris episode.
That's a great idea.
Good crossover.
That's a really good idea. Chad, do you want to book the show for us? We should talk about the Mac scene.
Yeah.
Because after they pull the car into the cornfield, there is a honestly fairly Spielbergian shot of these lights just coming at the truck.
Brights, sure.
Yeah. I said to Chad, like, it would be sick if it was aliens.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't not look like that. And it reminds me both of Signs and of the Close Encounters pickup truck
The beginning of E.T. too.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it just turns out to be this man named Mac who just works the field and is the first person to show Costner, well, one of the first, I guess, to show him human kindness, and doesn't care that they're outlaws. I think the man's blackness is like, for once in a Clint movie, noted. Clint has a tendency to kind of try to be post-racial.
Yeah.
Supposedly, according to the IMDb trivia guys, who knows, but they said that his first choice for Butch would have been Denzel Washington, which I would love to see Denzel in a Clint movie, but that changes the whole thing.
I know, but
I would no longer believe that they weren't going to just execute him on site anytime that they saw this person.
Is all obviously,
or would the kid have been? I mean,
this is all obviously very fraught. So I do want to speak carefully, but I was listening to your Unforgiven episode, and it's like, the Morgan Freeman casting is both colorblind in the sense that it is not remarked upon in the movie, but unmistakably the imagery is of lynching.
Right.
And
of course.
so and that sort of tension and sort of ambiguity to me is an ambivalence is sort of like at the heart of like Clint's racial politics to me, where it's like he's not, you can't say that he's ignoring race while having those images in the movie. But I don't know. I don't know what the conclusion is, but it's very fraught and interesting. And and then you look at something like, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, which has a lot of complicated things like that. And then this scene, and these people, they do show him kindness, but then it's also this sort of abusive father that reminds him of his own father and sort of, causes him to sort of go crazier than he does in any other point in the movie. But also, it's not as if the father is portrayed as particularly crueler than any other kind of father would be in 1963 in Texas. You know what I mean?
I wonder if he would have been as set off by that if we don't have the white mother in the station wagon who's abusive to her daughter, who's very too strict with the daughter for bouncing up and down in her chair. I mean, I think Costner's performance is really the thing that's most impressive about it to me, is the way that he expresses this kind of trauma, and he's so on a knife edge where you never quite know how he's going to respond to things. And he's obviously very set off by Mac slapping his son, Cleveland.
And it's also not, it's also you could imagine that Costner's character would be racist to some degree, just from his background in that time, etc. Right? He's not a progressive hero. You know what I mean? So that's part of it as well. I don't know.
But he is also, he's treating Cleveland as a little boy. He's doing the little flipping trick with him. He's showing him the same kindness that he shows to Philip, and it's
that to me has a post-racial element to it, because it's prioritizing other things above racial questions, right? Saying that's the frustration and the fallout of the abuse and the things that it triggers for him are more significant. And I think maybe Clint is even more interested in those things than he is interested in racial dynamics. But I think Chad's right. It's not something that he ignores. I mean, we had White Hunter, Black Heart and Honky Tonk Man, you know.
And also, I mean, these are basically the only black characters in this movie. So like, why did he choose it to be them? And, you know, I think there's reductive answers to that, or like, and there's uninteresting answers to that to me, I think. But I think that it's like getting at something that is complicated and fraught. But I don't know the full answer to it at all.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I was good. There's the classism, racism, like, I mean, you talked about in terms of why Mac is maybe sympathetic to it, but also the little moment that Costner has with the grandma is because he, you know, remembers this song that they put on the whorehouse.
Which is so frightening, that song. And it was written by
bagpipes.
It sounds like bagpipes, but it's not. I think it's like trumpet. I think
it's bagpipe.
I think it's like accordion, because I think it's supposed to be like Zydeco or like Cajun music.
The start of the end credit song too,
which is bagpipes,
and then goes into score.
Yeah, that song is not good. I'm going to say one of the only real weak points.
Well, no, I think Clint and Lenny Niehaus wrote the song. I think they wrote the song, this Cajun song, to be scary. Like, I think it's deliberately unsettling. But I mean, Chad, I think you make a very good point that it is like, I mean, I think after Bird or White Hunter, Black Heart, you really get these movies start to be much richer and more nuanced. I mean, I love all of the Clint movies, well, most of them before that, but he starts to leave a lot more of these questions and make movies that are harder to parse, I think, deliberately. And I mean, it's literally, I don't want to, you know, be corny, but it does feel like a mature period in his filmography. I mean, he does seem to start thinking of himself as a director before he's a movie star and as a filmmaker. Maybe he just read enough of his French reviews and started to like believe in himself.
Yeah, but then he still has the, like, you know, there's like 20 minutes of like Winnebago jokes in this movie too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. And there's the pecker stuff, and there's the really goofy Texas accents of the people running the store where
Cranleys.
Yeah. Hi! Like every syllable is like 2 minutes long.
Yeah.
There is, of course, there's the scene with the list of all of the fun things you would do, as we mentioned, which I think is just like unbearably sweet almost, in a good way. But like when Costner asks the kid if he's ever had cotton candy, and he says, "Oh, I've seen that. It's red."
That is also some real kid shit to me, to like just like lie and guess because that's what they want to, you know, be showing that they are hip to.
It's heartbreaking, and you just want to show this kid like you have no idea what colors of cotton candy they make. They do all of them. It's crazy. There's so much world to show this little boy, and then Costner wants to put him on a roller coaster, but all he can do is tie him to the roof rack.
And I had a panic attack about that in terms of like the stunt. Like, what is the stunt of that? Like, it's like you can't do that. Like, we would not allow that anymore.
Well, yeah. The other thing besides what were we talking about? Twilight Zone the movie was a real actor crossover for us also. So something that we think about a lot.
So many people in Clint movies were in Twilight Zone the movie.
Yeah.
We can't stop talking about it. It's not like we could stop before we did the podcast, but now it just keeps coming up. But we get this, I mean, it's now the Butch character. It's very clear that he's trying to undo the pain that his father caused him, and also that Buzz, or Philip's father, has caused him by leaving his mom so that he might come back when Philip's 10, like just picking a date in the future so that he'll stop asking about it. And it's just like, I think he just goes crazy in this scene with Mac and Cleveland and Mary Alice, we should shout out, as Lottie. She's, of course, the second Oracle in the Matrix films. Right. She was the original lead in the Broadway production of Fences opposite James Earl Jones, and she won a Tony for that. And also, I just want to shout out, I think I've shouted it out on the show before, but there's a movie in 1998 called Down in the Delta that's directed by Maya Angelou, her only directorial outing. Right. It's really good. But yeah, I mean, the scene, I think, is the turning point, and I wonder what you guys think of this, because I was looking at, I think, like the AFI first 100 years of cinema catalog or whatever, of which this film is the last Clint Eastwood film in there, because 1993, I guess, is their cutoff. But they had a synopsis in which they described the gun as going off accidentally in Buzz's hands.
Think so.
I don't think so either. I think he shoots him on purpose.
Yeah, to set this up a little, the thing that saves this movie from being a Blindside style, like saccharine sweet, is that this is also a film where the lead that we are supposed to find charming most of the time is duct taping a child's mouth shut and his Jesus grandmother Christ. Because they're praying, for the soul of their grandfather who's about to be executed. So the fact that both those things exist in the same film, I think that's what you're getting at when you talk about the maturity of allowing these things to just be presented and let the audience kind of deal with them as they would.
No, that's the power and the beauty of that moment, is that he does shoot him because he did what he taught him to do in the first scene where they met.
Right.
Like, shoot the bad guy. Mm-hmm. And, and he says, you're not bad, are you, Butch? And says, yeah. And it's, it's really powerful. Like, I don't know. I think it's a beautiful movie.
And then he's dying for so long.
Yeah.
Which I like, because I think, to my understanding, especially
more realistic than
because it's like 15 minutes in the film and diegetically, which I think is kind of nice.
And then when he gets shot again, and he says, "Damn, shot twice in the same day," it's like
it's a really good bit.
It's a good line, but like, damn, that is crazy. Have two different people shoot you in the same day before you get patched up. But yeah, there's this long sort of, it's almost an anticlimax standoff where Butch is sort of slumped against a tree and he's talking to Philip, and the cops and Philip's mom, who gets helicoptered in, are like across this field. And so you get the little boy dressed as Casper, like walking sort of back and forth across the field. He can't decide which side he wants to go to. He starts coming over there and then he goes back to give Costner a hug. They can't understand, the cops cannot understand this dynamic at all. Like, it's impossible to them to imagine that this man might be a full human being with different sides to him. And then of course the guy who fucks it all up is Bradley Whitford, the FBI guy, who is too trigger happy. And Laura Dern screams no. Which maybe that's why she's there, because they need a character who's emotionally available enough to say no when this happens.
No!
Yeah.
They also, in this scene, something I'm very fond of in filmmaking in general, they do the Bong Joon-ho thing where in the midst of a very dramatic scene, like I always think of The Host, when they believe that several of their family members have died, they have a guy come on screen and slip and fall, just like totally unrelated to the action. Just like, and it's not the lack of confidence where you're depending on comic relief because you're like, well, I don't know if I can bring the audience with me. It's just like a weird little moment of injected realism. They have a bunch of this, right, where this is, Kevin Costner is dying, the child is losing his surrogate father, and there's like these weird little exchanges between the cops, just like making fun of each other, being shitty to each other and stuff. Because I think, that is what life is, right? It's not this cut and dry distinction.
Somewhere in here, there's this scene where Clint is around the campfire with Laura Dern and explains his connection to Butch, which is that he delivered an amicus. I don't know how does Laura Dern say it? She says it in a completely insane way. Oh, I've got to drop this in. Did you guys know that when Laura Dern was 17 and she had emancipated herself from her parents so that she could work adult hours on movie sets, she got an apartment with a woman 15 years her senior. Do you know who this is? Mary Ann Williamson was Laura Dern's roommate when she was 31 and Laura Dern was 17.
That tracks.
It does, but
Man.
it's so fucking crazy. I mean, it's like the Al Gore, Tommy Lee Jones thing. They were roommates at Harvard, which is just nuts.
I mean,
but...
I just learned that David Hasselhoff and Paul Rubens were roommates.
Oh,
in
yeah.
college.
At Cal Arts or something. And also, like, what was Hasselhoff doing at Cal Arts?
Like, Hasselhoff was at Cal Arts and he lived with Paul Rubens.
It's how he learned to sing in German.
A lot of information to process.
Yeah. But we find out that Red basically forced a judge by buying him a T-bone steak to convince him to send the kid to
the bad juvie.
To juvie for 4 years as opposed to sort of letting him off with a warning because he knew that he was had a bad father and was going down a bad way. Although obviously his plan did not work well.
Yeah, but it's like he's trying to be a sort of father figure to the Costner character, at least in terms of protecting him in the way that he understands. But the only thing he understands, obviously, is like this carceral solution. And he says, some kids come out of Gatesville okay, like one of them became a priest.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get Costner at one point refers to when Buzz steals the Casper costume, he says that they're going to send me to jail or hell. And Costner says there's no difference.
Same difference.
So like,
yeah.
And also like a juvenile prison farm is.
And then there's the moment too where Costner, it's like Heat in a way where they never share the same screen really until the end. But he says like, do I know you from somewhere or whatever? Like, and there's just this kind of like moment of recognition between the two, but I don't think Costner ever puts it together.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, do we know why Costner is in prison at the beginning of the movie? Do they ever say that?
He initially gets arrested because he shot a guy, but then that doesn't amount to anything. But the reason he goes to prison is because he took a car for a joyride.
That's when he was a kid though, right?
Yeah, so then he steals a car,
okay,
and they say like, well, how is that possible? You would send a kid to juvie for 4 years for a joyride, and then we find out that was Clint.
No, I know that, but I'm saying adult Costner who's in jail at the beginning of the movie.
I don't know if we did.
Like who escapes? Like, what do we ever know what he did? Because Marie had predicted that it was like at the beginning that it was going to be revealed that he did something actually like really bad. And that would be kind of and I didn't remember, but I don't think they ever really say. I guess he's just like kind of in the system.
Well, yeah, and Ian brought this up on the Unforgiven episode with this idea of kind of like ontological criminals, like that once you've committed a criminal act, you are like your soul is criminal, and you are now
imminently criminal. And I think we also get the Escape from Alcatraz thing where Clint will say there's criminals and then there's smart criminals. In this case, they tested him, right? IQ style, which also happens for Clint. And I don't know what we're supposed to make of that, but I appreciate what you're getting at, Jake, where you're talking about Red's struggle with the decision he made, because I don't think he even decides that it was right or wrong. He just decides that he doesn't know, right? That's one of his last lines in the film is that he just doesn't know what the hell is going on.
Yeah. There's a couple things that are pointing at like progress. There's the Dern character's presence, and you also get this sort of comically quaint mobile home, like mobile police station that they're driving around.
Driven by Ray McKinnon of Deadwood and Rectify.
The creator of Rectify.
Yeah.
I thought of you because Ian loves to watch all of those shows that I've only seen billboards for, and I couldn't tell you anything about them.
Yep.
They keep referring to this thing as like the state of the art, which it's funny, obviously, because it's like an Airstream trailer, and now it's the kind of thing that gets souped up and turned into an Airbnb. But like, it's at the time apparently impressive, and yet I don't think that the film ultimately ends up being about any kind of changing ideas. Like, it's not really engaging with that stuff, or to the extent that it is, it's maybe just saying something about like things that are eternal, things about people have always been both good and bad, and boys have always needed fathers, and things like this. And no matter how like the world changes. I mean, this is all on the eve of Kennedy's assassination, and so you would think that this might have something to say about like a loss of national innocence or some Oliver Stone shit like
which
that.
the
But
title goes to as well in a way, which is sort of never. I mean, it is mentioned, but it's all very kind of matter of fact, where they go like, "Well, in a perfect world, this would happen," or whatever.
Yeah,
but
Dern says in a perfect world, things like this wouldn't happen in the first place. So, like in a perfect world, I guess like crime wouldn't exist, and maybe there's a suggestion that in a perfect world, like he wouldn't have been sent to the prison farm, and they also talk about how like that's where the sumbitch learned to be a criminal. We've seen that before.
Right. And I mean, I don't know, you're right in that like it doesn't really ever get to a sort of loss like a grander statement like something like Unforgiven has, but at the same time it does have like it is a fable, like it is a fairy tale, like which I do think the title kind of goes with, you know, it could take place in you know, the fall and summer of 1963 or any time basically like the story could take place in. So I do think that's interesting, but you're right, it doesn't like have a grander statement necessarily.
I think it's richer for that. Like, I mean, I love Unforgiven. I love how almost everything in the film seems to be pointing to the same ideas and the same concerns. And then this one is more, it's slipperier. It's harder to determine exactly what it's trying to say about things, except basically that this guy shouldn't have been sent to the juvie farm. That I think we can say for sure. And also that Jehovah's Witnesses
I don't know if I agree
evil.
that even that. I mean, I think the whole point of his abusive father is that the world was already. I mean, this is already so far from a perfect world that basically every decision seems to, you know, have led him away from the person that he could have become. Because I think, at least for me, I don't think the suggestion was he should have stayed. Like he would have been better off. It just seems like sending him to juvie definitely didn't work, and we don't know if there was anything that might have worked. Right, just that his life was bad. He was a product of his environment, and you know, what are we supposed to do about that?
Do you think that history will repeat itself with Buzz as he gets older?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Because now he's got the blood on his hands.
Right. I mean, the same exact thing where he killed a man that he's going to get away with because, you know, everyone wanted him dead and still doesn't have a father and has the same literal postcard given to him.
Yeah,
it's true.
You know,
but I wonder if maybe the idea is that because he's being brought up in a too strict environment rather than a too lenient environment, maybe that's the change. I mean, Clint movies we've talked about this, like have generally a pretty chill attitude towards sex work. It's barely mentioned in this. I mean, there aren't like this is all just in dialogue, but there's at least it seems to be that the thing that was damaging to Butch about growing up in the what do they call it, the dance parlor or something,
right,
was the men, not the fact of his mother doing this work. But
and I mean, I do think that one of the most powerful moments of the movie to me was you know, the reveal of the whole idea of Alaska being from his father, and it's like he's reading this you know, postcard while he's sitting there, and you just look at him and he just looks like a little boy when he's like reading and you're just like, oh, they're the same. And it's just like that was just like so touching to me. Like,
right, he's talking about a postcard from the guy who also traumatized him the most, potentially, right?
Yes. And that he wants to go there. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's great.
Like,
he wants to steal Fords because that's the car that his dad drove. He even like the cool jacket, the red and black jacket, he takes from the first guy that they carjack, who was like old enough to be his dad. Which, as a longtime inheritor of my father's jackets, this to me is a very dad thing to do, is to get a jacket from an older man. But yeah, I think that scene especially comes pretty shortly after he tells Buzz, like, we're the same. Me and you got a lot in common, Philip. The both of us is handsome devils. We both like RC Cola, and neither one of us has got an old man worth a damn. And then he says something about how he's got to be, they're like loners, they're lone wolves. And pretty shortly thereafter, he says, I want to walk 1,500 miles to see my dad in Alaska.
Yeah.
And, to bring it back to the Clint of it all, I think he is starting to engage with his failings as a father, or his potential failings as a father. Although the upcoming film Absolute Power is kind of a, actually me being absent was good parenting. But
yeah, I mean, we talked about the fact that one of the Clint classics is to continuously say that you're struggling with something and to not resolve it. I mean, Gran Torino.
What do you think I like the guy's movies?
Yeah, exactly.
Do we have any final thoughts on A Perfect World before? I would like to talk to you guys a little bit about working in movies.
The only last thing I'll say is, taking the prompt from LCJ of the best 3-film run with John Lee Hancock. Yeah. I would argue that I think that Unforgiven, A Perfect World, and Bridges of Madison County are among the best 3-film run that any filmmaker has ever had.
Damn, gauntlet thrown down. LCJ, come on the show to
don't have him on the show. He's two bad dates away from being like on the Daily Wire as their film critic.
Yep.
Oh, I think he's already doesn't even need to go.
He's in talks.
Yeah.
Well, he and Ben Shapiro look like they're the same age.
Yeah.
Although he's much taller than Ben Shapiro, I think.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, he's surprisingly gangly.
Did you see his TV list? His list of the best TV shows that had
Super Bowl.
It had American Bandstand on it. I mean, I said this.
In the world?
I hate to repeat my own joke, which is not true at all, but it's like he only watches TV at a tire shop. Like every show on there is what you watch while you're waiting for them to have to replace your tires. Like, I was surprised not to see Judge Wapner on there.
Yeah.
And then there's the picture of him at Regis's
Brave. Miss you every day.
And he's wearing shorts.
He's wearing Madras shorts that go down below the knee. Yeah, they're so bad.
Like Brooks Brothers shorts somehow on this weird.
He's got to get that 5-inch inseam,
Question about the LCJ TV list: is it? I could be wrong here, but is it true that he included a Brady home renovation show? But not the Brady Bunch.
Is that true?
I know he included the renovation show, but I don't know if he included the Brady Bunch.
My friend Jeremy Allison, who did the artwork for our show, drove me past the Brady. He's a very talented guy. He drove me past the Brady Bunch house, which is in on the other side of the mountains over here in LA, and we pulled up as another car pulled away and was pulling their phones back through the window. The people who live in the Brady Bunch house are just fucked. There's just somebody there. Whoever lives at Cielo Drive, I don't know what could possess you to. Those houses should cost $1 because of the shit you must go through. Are you looking up the list, Marie?
Yeah, she's got it up here.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. The Brady Bunch is on.
Okay. But we all, it's like one of those things. The fact that we believed you really says how crazy the freaking world is.
He also has Jay Leno's garage. He has the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. But
Conan found dead in a ditch.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, when you Google Lights Camera Jackson, and maybe it's connected to my search history or something, but the third result is from the r/Blankies Reddit. And it says, "Can someone explain Lights Camera Jackson to me?" So congrats to you guys. I do want to talk about, because we have, you guys have Marie. I think I mentioned this when I first emailed you, but something you reposted was part of the genesis of me thinking about maybe doing this show, which was a blind item back in 2021 when IATSE almost went on strike. There was a blind item. People were posting their horror stories from film sets. And then this one was I worked with an A-list director with decades in the business he knew exactly what he wanted. There wasn't like a wasted moment on set. When you actually know what you want, like everybody's job is so much easier and we all went home. And so I wonder just like what, based on what you know about Clint's working methods or things you've heard, like how do you see your position within the film industry or the work that you've done and like, the intersection between liberal Hollywood or whatever with like what it actually feels like to work in the industry?
Well, it's something that Chad and I both talk about a lot because we mostly work, or formerly, currently, in independent film.
Yeah.
Where Clint is someone, when you talk about his politics, and you talked about this a couple of minutes ago, where, people have this impression of him as being like a Republican who has old fashioned values and, isn't necessarily the most progressive person, but like the way that he runs his sets, which is very respectful of the workers and the talent and, is not keeping people there for 18 hours every day, I think is like walking the walk as opposed to, talking big game. And I mean, we both have worked on films that I think have certain pedigrees that, people might assume that the process of making them was probably like in some way progressive or on the right side of history, but like 9 times out of 10, like absolutely not. It's fucking nightmare. And
it's like an Ellen DeGeneres, hell.
Yeah, I mean, like when you're working in independent film, you're mostly working with first-time directors, and to be magnanimous even to the monsters, like everything's on the line. You know what I mean? This is their one shot. It's hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars that they're getting for the first time. And many of them have only had experience in shorts or like whatever and have no fucking idea what it is like to make an entire movie in 20 days or 25 days. Like you think about it, like, assuming 12-hour days or even like 14, but like, if you're making a movie in 20 days, that means you're making a movie in 240 hours. So
Jesus.
like, try to figure that out, Yeah.
And you guys have worked in production, right? A lot of that is making sure that it comes in under budget or negotiating with, I don't know, like union reps on set to try to convince them to let you shoot longer.
Budget killers are overtime.
Right.
Yeah.
And it also, it's a lot of times it's it comes to the director. I mean, the joke on set is that the director is always the least experienced person on set. The director and the PAs. So like that can be good, like in the case of Linoleum, and I'll shout out my friend Colin West, who's a brilliant filmmaker and an incredibly kind person.
That was a really great experience.
I've literally never seen the crew love the director more than they did him. And that kind of like top down inspiration and sort of respect and kindness to everyone like creates a better product. And then there's a bunch of other people that I won't name.
We don't have to too specific. Sure.
I think this is something that Griffin Newman has said on the Blank Check podcast, but like working on a movie, which I have not done, you are immediately struck with like, it's a miracle that any of these have ever been good. Just like the
or
difficulty
have ever been finished, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. And it's this weird intersection of art and commerce, right? Where it's like you're trying to do art, you're trying to entertain, but also like you're beholden to the fucking Coca-Cola company, and also you're working with a bunch of people. And so if you want to be an insane artist and stay up for 3 days straight painting, like who gives a shit, go for it. But like you can't impose that on somebody who feeds their family by being a set carpenter or something.
Yeah, and I think that like even more so than like I think the thing that gets lost in like art and commerce part of it is the commerce part. People think of like selling the movie or the box office or like whatever. There's another part of it that is just like management. Like you're like running a coffee shop. You know what I'm saying?
Volume
like,
of employees.
It's like you have 12 hours to like accomplish the day's work, and the management of that, you know, from the top down of like the ADs and the DP and the director and all this stuff is like, that is a form of that's somewhere between art and commerce as well. That it's just like management. And I think that a big, you know, lionizing people like Kubrick and Fincher and their methods in film school has done irreparable damage to a bunch of white boys' brains.
Yeah.
And I'd much rather, I wish that they lionized the working methods of people like Clint Eastwood and Steven Soderbergh, who show up to set and know what they want and shoot it and don't make a big fuss out of it and get great work out of people and then go home.
Yeah.
And you can do that too. And, you know, I love Kubrick and I love Fincher, but like, if you want to stack their filmographies together of between Soderbergh and Eastwood, they're about equal to me. So it's like, it doesn't, it's not as if one is so much better than the other.
They also got a lot more movies made. Like this just the volume.
Yeah. Sure. But I think Soderbergh's a good example because Eastwood, sometimes the like one takeness comes across not necessarily in a bad way, but at least for me, you know, you look at the Oceans or Out of Sight or whatever. These are like highly refined and detailed films that you can still make this way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he was as that hardcore back then, but like certainly now he is like that. And it's funny, I don't know if I've ever heard either of them talk about each other like as much as Soderbergh talks about people's other work. Has he ever talked about Eastwood?
They both were Warner Brothers guys, right?
Yeah, they're Warner guys. But also, one of the first times I heard Clint Eastwood referred to like adoringly or even not as a punchline was when I was watching Out of Sight with the commentary on, because I'd watched it 4 million times without the commentary on. And the commentary must have been recorded in 1998 or whatever. Isaiah Washington comes on screen and Soderbergh said, "This is an exciting actor. He's actually going to be in Clint Eastwood's True Crime coming up, which I'm excited to see." And I was like, oh, so Soderbergh, I think maybe even cast him because he saw that he was going to be in True Crime. Isaiah Washington's great in True Crime. He's like his character is the sort of the engine of the story. So yeah, I mean, as a director, Chad, how do you even go about trying to think of these twin problems of like making a good movie and not making everybody hate you? I mean, and obviously you don't have to have a good answer to the question.
You know, if you look at Rotten Tomatoes, I've never directed a good movie. So let's take that with a grain of salt. But
I watched Private Property and I thought it was very beautiful. I was very impressed by it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yes, Private Property is on Hulu right now, as is Linoleum.
Someone brought that up in the Blankies Discord the other day. People are
talking.
Isn't this Marie's friend remade this movie? And I was like, I'm not gonna.
That's another movie with two sort of weirdo crime guys who steal an old car.
That's true.
I don't know if you were thinking about this.
I don't know.
Crime guys.
Like, I think that you have to fit your vision to the mode of production and understand that that I have 20 days to shoot this movie. So therefore, every scene that is less than one page is one shot. So I think about it like that in a way where I kind of force myself into that bubble, which also, by the way, you can do and makes the particular shot better. Like, you know, you have to like block it, for example. You know, Soderbergh talks about this, in this great clip on, the Criterion channel talking about the Underneath, where he got to a point where when he was directing Che, where they had, you know, there's a 4-hour movie that I think he shot in like, you know, less than 60 days or some insane amount of time, where he said essentially he got to a point where, you know, he stripped down his style so much that, you know, he just asked himself, whose scene is this? And once you decide whose scene it is, all you really need to do is show what they're seeing and their face. And, you know, so that's 2 shots.
Yeah.
And that he says I got to a point where you basically have to convince me to do anything more than that. And I don't think that that's always true or always, the way to go about it, but it's a good baseline when you're on a tight schedule,
Yeah, I mean, I remember another Soderbergh thing. He might have been on the Empire podcast or something. I like listening to Steven Soderbergh because he's one of the few guys who seems to be able to talk about how he does things.
So smart. Yeah.
And he was in the same editing facility as Fincher. I don't remember which movies lined up that way, but he went down the hall to hang out with Fincher and talk about what he was working on. And Fincher had been fucking around with maybe they're color correcting or something. He had been just on the same frame for 3 days trying to get the green right on the wall in the background. And Soderbergh was like, how can you do this to yourself? How do you even have the patience to do this? Now, obviously, I'm excited to see The Killer, but Soderbergh.
I think it was Panic Room, but then Fincher just goes it's called being a professional or whatever. He just that. It's different modes, and I mean those guys both respect each other a lot, but
yeah,
I don't know. It's you can be that way, but I don't know. I mean, I've seen a lot of directors work that way, and I'm by take 14, you don't even remember what happened in take 4, man. You're just this is not a means to an end. You just don't know what you want.
Right.
And I don't think that's a good way to work either.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially when you have Hollywood budgets. I mean, it's one thing if
you have the space to do that, with which Fincher carves himself out to do, and also he's earned it.
Yeah. But the other guys maybe have not as much. I say guys because I think it's only guys doing this.
I'm talking about guys. Let's
be clear. Can I ask you to weigh in on my worst take, which is that slow cinema, your Simon Lang, your Tarkovsky sorted guys, that these movies are fundamentally much easier to make than Now You See Me 2, for example, which has so many more shots than
I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
so it's
you can do something in just an establishing shot and move on.
Pushed his chair back. He's taking it.
Oh, that's really funny. But
from a production standpoint,
have you ever seen the video of the house burning down and the sacrifice, and then there's no film in the camera?
Oh my god!
Yeah,
or it jams or whatever. I don't know.
I just feel I've seen a lot of A24 horror movies where I'm is this effective and creepy, or do they just not know how to storyboard because every shot is just a fucking long take establishing?
I think we can all agree that the A24 spooky horror movies where nothing happens are the easiest movies to make.
Seems like it. Yeah. Well, my worst video store experience, and I had plenty of really bad ones, but I think the worst thing that happened to me at the video store was when a kid came in, real crust punk looking kid, but you could tell he was I want to call him a crust fund kid because he seemed like he had a lot of money, but went out of his way to look like he didn't. Mm-hmm. Came in and asked me if we had any movies that were like A24. And I was like, buddy, that's I mean, they buy a lot of those movies. Those movies are, there's a fucking distributor. Which one? What are you talking about?
Someone should come in and ask you if there's any movies like Warner Brothers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but even this has been an absolute delight for me. I don't know about any of the rest of you, but I've been having a terrific time. I'm so glad you guys could come on.
I got to mansplain A Perfect World to Marie in the Blank Check Studios.
I know.
Happy to be part of this.
I feel this was not a Marie movie. This was I did not get my chance to shine today.
Are you offering to come back?
Yeah, would you like to come back?
Yes, I'm offering to come back.
When I first reached out, I believe you immediately roped Chad in, and then we were kind of talking about stuff to do. So we'd love to have you back.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean,
Of
Chad is just
course.
better at responding to emails than I am. This is why I am no longer a production manager.
Yeah, I noticed the different guests have different email styles, and it's it's a grand tapestry.
Yeah.
It's true.
So
of
I know
hosts
he's gonna
as
just
well.
like take care of it. So it's
Okay.
but how many times were we at a
Yeah.
bar and be like, Marie, you gotta tell the Clint Eastwood guys, you gotta either email the Clint Eastwood guys. I want to go in the pod.
I
And I'm
love
like,
to be called the
okay.
Clint Eastwood guys.
You know, when you're in production and there's nothing more miserable in the world than you look forward to going back to talking about movies.
Other Clint movies, Jersey Boys. I am Italian and I sing, so that also works.
Got a beautiful singing voice.
Thank you, Chad.
Do you want to come on for Jersey Boys? Can we lock it down? You're from Pennsylvania, right? That's basically New Jersey.
I'm from the Philadelphia area.
Right, right.
Yes,
Which Shyamalan movie were you almost in?
Almost in. Excuse me. I was in it. I was paid for my labor. I think I earned $32.
Hell yeah.
For my 8 hours of extra work on Wide Awake.
Jesus.
Oh, right. Wide Awake. I listened to the show. And Chad, I'm going to ask, do you want to talk Trouble with the Curve? Because you are a baseball man.
I've actually never seen Trouble with the Curve, so I would, of course, I'd love to come back on if you would like to have me. I'll watch it for that.
Isn't Justin Timberlake in that movie?
And Amy Adams.
I knew that the Justin Timberlake movie career was like a weird
so
thing.
Strange. Yeah. I think I said thanks, and I think you guys said you were happy to be here, so that's great.
Yes.
Loved having you. Truly a dream. Ian has pointed out that, like, look, we're thousands of dollars in the hole on this show, but at least we've got to talk to some of the people that we think are cool. So that's great. We're not. It's like hundreds.
Yeah, we just like made a wish to ourselves, so that's fine. I don't mind.
Yeah.
And then if we die at the end, that's also fine.
Fill in the terminal illness later.
Yep.
So, where can folks find out? Is there anything you want to plug, Marie? You're good at Twitter professionally.
You can follow me on Twitter. I'm not signing up for a Threads account. You can listen to Blank Check. I will be a more consistent presence on all new release episodes.
Nice.
So if we're covering a new release film, you bet your ass I'll be the fourth mic on that one. Although I don't really care for Aquaman. So they have me on the schedule for Aquaman 2.
Lost Kingdom.
And I don't think I'd have anything to contribute to that conversation.
So maybe Ferrari or...
Oh, yeah. And another movie that is coming out later this year that everyone has assumed that we will be covering that we have not yet announced.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Maestro?
No, Maestro. Yes, obviously. But no, a director, the next series after part.
Oh, shit. You guys are doing, let's see, funny movie coming out. All right. Something Bradley Whitford is in later this year. Chad, are you working on anything you want, you'd like folks to keep an eye out for?
Sure. I'm on Twitter at Chad with 2 Ds spelled out. You can watch a movie that I produced with Marie called Linoleum on Hulu with Jim Gaffigan and Ray Seahorn from Better Call Saul.
Nice.
And also on Hulu, you can watch a movie I directed last year called Private Property with Ashley Benson and Shiloh Fernandez and others to come. But those are the 2 most available and, most relevant.
One other thing I would like to plug is I talked a lot of shit about this orange vanilla flavored Polar seltzer, but I drank the entire can and I grew to love it. So
they always get you.
Wow, Clint Eastwood style, reckoning with your own learning process.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for our episode on A Perfect World. Thank you so much to all who listened. And if you got this far and you email us the word Ian's penis, we'll send you a free prize.
All one word?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to figure that out. We don't have that many prizes.
It's a good size for his age.
Well, how old are you? Anyway, remember to subscribe, rate us, write a review. Helps us on the old algorithm. If you like the show, tell a friend, tell your dad, tell Bradley Whitford. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Pod Casty For Me. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, or you're interested in co-hosting a 2-person Clint Eastwood podcast, you can email us at podcastingforme@gmail.com. Thank you to Jeremy Allison for our artwork. Next week, we are, of course, covering the film Casper, directed by Brad Silberling, featuring Clint Eastwood in a starring role. Now, if you want to watch the film Casper, you're going to have to go to all of the regular places: Amazon, Apple TV, DirecTV, Google Play, Microsoft, Redbox, Vudu, and of course YouTube. You can also buy it on AMC Theaters on Demand. This is sort of a running thing on the show that the AMC Theaters app lets you watch movies in it. Ian, what do you got down there in Mexico?
This is maybe our most accessible film yet in every sense. This is on Netflix. It's on Max. It's on Netflix with ads. I don't know if you guys have that up there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I also want, because we are recording this episode after we recorded our Absolute Power episode, little inside baseball. But we talk about Mark Margolis on that episode.
Oh, yeah.
R.I.P. a lovely actor.
He plays the Pope in End of Days, by the way.
Oh, fuck. Podcast over.
That's
End of Days
right.
beginning now. Mark Margolis, rest in power. One of the great faces. One of God rested after he made that face, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, where can you can watch it down there in Mexico on, did you say Apple TV? Because they don't call it that there.
You're right. Yeah, I think you were telling me that they called it something else.
Mine's on a TV. Mine's on a TV.
Now who you got?
Mine's on a TV.
No.
Is this person singing for some reason?
No, I will say this person is related to the film Casper.
Oh.
Bill Pullman?
Mine's on a TV.
That's Space Ghost.
Okay.
That is the voice of Space Ghost.
Yeah. Yep. Good.
Yeah. So he says that's what it's called there. Yeah. Thanks everybody for listening. And thanks, Chad and Marie, for being on. Thank you for
so
agreeing
much,
to
guys.
host the show, just the two of you from now on.
Having us.
And we'll see you all next week.